Hey everybody, welcome to the GLL Masters Summer for Apex Legends. Lawler here, hosting alongside Matchroom. We've got week 5 action coming at you in just a bit, but before we get into that, obviously we got to go through the formalities. Matchroom, it's been a week. We're excited now for our last chance for these teams. How you feeling, man? What's the stitch coming in?
Oh, dude, I love these last chance style qualifiers. Like, I'm always a sucker for an underdog every single time I'm casting an event. I know we're not supposed to have any bias, but there's always the storyline of somebody that gets put down in the lower bracket or shifts back down like we're looking at right now and comes up with something new and innovative and really just rocks it out today. And I can't wait to see these teams compete like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Well, this is the Americas region, and with that, there's a lot of things for us to go over. So we're going to start right away with the schedule for the entire tournament. If you guys are just joining us or don't know what's been going on, we've had 4 weeks of basically a league play, I guess is the best way to explain it, where these guys have been trying to earn points based upon being in an alpha or a bravo division. We've been through 4 weeks. We are now on week 5, and what's a little bit different about this one is it is the last chance for these teams to make it into the grand final next week, and we'll kind of get into the details and the specifics of how that breaks down. But more importantly, obviously these guys are playing for a ton of cash. We want to take a look at the point system and the prize pool for how everything has actually kind of come through fruition about the $100,000 up for grabs and everything else, as you guys can see here. A lot of money on the line, isn't there, Matchroom?
Oh, $100,000, all things considered. You can see the breakdown for North America, EMEA, as well as APAC North and APAC South. But pay attention to the point system. We've regularly been talking about how whenever we're looking at Alpha Lobby, that everything is doubled. You can still see it down there in the bottom. There is no Alpha Lobby anymore. So everything is specifically just based off of the normal point system and 1 point per kill. So no double points, no nothing like that. It's everybody's last chance. So it's a firm equalizer across the board.
Yeah, kind of as a preemptive before we dive into and provide a graphic for it all. Every week over the past 4 weeks, there's been an Alpha division and a Bravo division. If you found yourself in that Alpha division, you got double points. It was one of the benefits to being one of the top 20 teams. Last week, we ended up finding our top 10 teams across those 4 weeks, and those top 10 teams are already guaranteed into the grand final. The reason why today is that last chance is we're going to see teams 11 through 30 trying to make it into that top 10 as well. So a lot of stuff for us to cover today, but because we are on that last chance stage, there is no double points. It is all or nothing in this aspect, and it's kind of the most exciting part. We talked about it at the very beginning, the ability to have these guys compete over 6 matches and double points and the chance for comeback. There is no more comebacks, Matchroom. It is 6 matches today, 3 on World's Edge, 3 on Kings Canyon, do or die.
Everything comes down to this. This is your tournament survival from this point forward. The top 10 are going to be going on. So while you've got these 6 rounds, you've got to make sure you put in the absolute most today, because this is where it all comes down to. If you want to make it into the grand finals and that stack of money that we saw just a second ago, you have to compete across these 6 rounds. And like you were talking about, 3 on World's Edge to start off. So we're going to be moving a little bit more quiet and rotations off the get-go, all about meta movements, and then finishing it out on Kings Canyon, where it's going to be pedal to the metal violence, and everybody is going to have to show up and show how well you can flick, reload, run around, and aim while you're flying through the sky.
Yeah, we've joked about it obviously throughout all the weeks, but our favorites obviously being how these players kind of adapt and change up after they finally find their footing. You know, the first couple matches are like, all right, we're in a groove, things are great, and then we switch the map on them. So going to be an exciting day here with 3 apiece for both of the maps, and we get to find out who the favorites are later on. So a lot of things for us to cover overall, but again, there's a lot of matches and everything else that will be playing out today, and we'll do our best to make sure that you guys stay up to date on all those points and the leaderboards and how all of that stuff ends up playing out. It is a lot, but we'll do our best to keep you guys up to date, we promise. We also may have to throw in a couple little special things here and there, because Onset and Gaskin did some pretty exciting stuff this morning too for EMEA region. So again, if you guys haven't had the ability to do that, you can always go back and check out the VODs for that other region to see who's in their grand final, as well as I'm sure that stuff will be on YouTube later. So again, if you guys have additional information or additional details as these graphics are going through at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to find a link that you can go and follow more details. But with that said, let's take a look at the daily schedule to kind of show you how things are going to break down for just today. We already went through like the fact that there's 6 matches, but there's also a lot of teams that are going to be playing. I talked about 11 through 30, so let's find out who those 11 through 30 actually are. And there might be some names, some fan favorites, but this is last week's results. So I talked about there's 10 teams that have already made it into the grand finals. You can see them highlighted in red here. So on the left-hand side, you got TSM, Sentinels, Rogue, 303, Energy, Smile, Eye Shiny Muffins, and Protectful, Team Liquid, MVP, and Aim Assist. All of these teams have already automatically guaranteed themselves a spot in the grand finals.
Yeah, okay. Look at it as easy as this. We had 2 different lobbies of 20 teams apiece. The top 10 automatically advance the grand final. The bottom 10 are eliminated. Now we're trying to find our 10 that are going to be competing in the grand finals. So 11 through 30. So you can see Team Superior, all those guys in gray where it's got the last chance marker across the right side of the screen. These are the teams that are going to be competing today. And a great opportunity. Whenever you get rid of the top 10 teams and we still have an event like this going on, this is a prime time to be able to show what your team can compete and how well they can perform whenever you get the big dogs off the table and show the fact that you have been learning, you have been paying attention, and you can compete with the best.
Yeah, we've seen this in numerous weeks as well, where some teams, because in the past we had a demotion system where if you found yourself in the bottom 5, you would drop down. So these are the teams that were in that so-called Alpha and Bravo divisions. This is the Bravo lobby per se. So because those teams 21 through 30 are still fighting and have accumulated enough points, they find themselves in this last chance. So they're going to be joining that 11 through 20 spot for a chance to give us our full 20 teams, and whoever makes it out at the end of today will be the ones that join our top 10 that are already in the grand finals. Unfortunately, though, that means that 31 through 40 had to wrap it up. They are all done, so we are saying goodbye to them, and we said our thanks last week, but our focus is now 11 through 30. It's going to be a lot on the line. And the best thing I think out of all of this is a lot of these point totals are actually extremely close towards the top end.
Yeah, and that's going to be a key factor as we're moving through. Sure, if you're towards the bottom, you can have a good day and really climb up there, but there's still capabilities for everybody to climb. The problem is there's only 6 rounds, so that really limits the capabilities, all things considered. You have got to be playing the best of the best, because you know some of these teams that are in the bottom 10 bracket really want to show up and they really want to make it into the next section. So here's everything all contending together. No more side by sides, no half on one slide, half on another. Now we get to look at everything all together in alphabetical order. So see, look, we're not playing favorites at all. There's no reason why Anime Girls Uwu is at the top.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. Maybe we'll get you to have an epic monologue again this week. We'll see what happens. Overall, though, the thing to keep in mind for everybody that is paying attention, these are our teams 11 through 30 in alphabetical order. At the end of today, whoever performs the best with accumulation of points throughout all the weeks has the capability to then move into the top. So we're waiting to see who our top 10 teams are. That's the number one thing. Who performs the best, the top 10 overall, will make it into the grand finals on August 1st. So a lot on the line here, all coming down to the wire, but that is the best part as we talk about how it's the last chance. And it does provide a little bit of a mentality shift, Matchroom. We haven't really talked about this at all. But the fact that these guys do now know that it is all or nothing. This is literally the last chance. Do you think that's going to apply any bit of a differentiation in how they approach the game or what they're used to? Or is it going to just be, you know what, tried and true, keep doing what we're doing?
I think opening up the fact that we don't have teams like TSM that are known for just winning gunfight after gunfight to contend with are going to open up some new potentials from strategies for some of these teams that we haven't seen before. Now, how aggressive do they want to play it? I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see that mix-up start to happen towards the mid or potentially the last 2 rounds. The problem is whenever we look at Battle Royales in general, teams go, oh, well, I don't really want to shake anything up just yet. And so they wait and they wait and they continue just to have mediocre games instead of the big game that they need. And they keep that one last remaining tool until the very end and make it an all or nothing round. So expect to see a slow escalation of teams trying out new things, trying to stretch their wings just a little bit more as we move in later and later into this 6-round series.
Well, with that said, obviously there's a lot of teams, and even though the big dogs per se are now already guaranteed and pushed aside, there is still some pretty big names, teams that we have had expectations from since the beginning. You know, you're talking Superior at one point at the end of week 3 was like a top 5 team, and they dropped down. So again, these teams have shown that in previous weeks they are extremely competitive. That's part of the reason why they are still in the last chance category. But is there any ones in particular that you kind of have your eyes on other than HRN? Probably. I know you were pretty keen on them a couple weeks back.
I like them a lot. Also got to make sure to point out Solafide. Solafide is a good performer whenever everything's on the line. We've seen some big flashes from Ziploc Bags. New Brainers haven't had the best of showings all the time, but we have seen Mercy only. The rest of the crew really step up at some really pivotal points. So now that they have a little bit more of open reign, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see them perform quite well. A couple other teams really should be looking at as well. We talked about BKB, HRN a second ago, as well as Wraith One Tricks also every once in a while catches my eye with some interesting things that they do. Really, it's third parties that have been there, like, well, most teams that get caught out in a third party, but it's always been they try to make a play and then they find themselves caught. So I'm really wanting to see what they can do now.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see on who kind of takes that top dog spot now that some of the other guys that are pretty much the ones that have been gatekeeping and limiting them every single week. Now that those are gone, it's your chance to be the one that steps up. And if you haven't gotten the chance to kind of watch how the results have played out through the Bravo division, there has been some teams like the HRNs, the Superiors, the Solafides that really stand out above, that kind of basically become the TSM per se of that lobby. Because TSM, as much as we try not to be biased, when you come in with a 100-point lead and end up qualifying for the grand finals with that kind of performance, we're going to talk about you. That's just kind of how it works.
Well, it's one of those things, like, you can't necessarily call it bias so much as the fact that it's our job to tell a story of what's happening. And when they're repeatedly just amassing so much points, they become a conversation topic. Speaking of conversation topics, guys, remember, as we're talking about the top 10 teams that are going to be advancing today, I apologize. We are going to regularly sound like a YouTube clickbait title, talking top 10s over and over. We know you're going to get tired of it, but that's the storyline for today. Who is going to be in the top 10? Who's holding up positions? What's going to be happening specifically whenever we're looking like between 8, 12, maybe 8 to 15? Who's going to be fighting for those last couple of spots? So if you hear us say top 10 repeatedly, I apologize.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a redundancy here and there, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're hoping to find out. So again, we're going to see which teams kind of, as the points balance out, what the performances. I'll try to do some quick maths for everybody to be like, okay, this is the results that we need to make sure we can move forward. But overall, it's going to be an exciting one, and I'm excited to see things play and to keep you guys up to date. Obviously, as much as we'd like to jump in the games, we're just being patient, making sure that everybody hops in the lobby, because once we get the ball rolling, then it moves across pretty quickly. So just waiting on the guys to join up, and before we get into our first match on World's Edge, I guess let's transition kind of talking about that first match. What kind of things are you looking to see? Is there any expectations that you have when it comes to specific teams in general? Or is it going to just be a kind of wait and see period for you? I don't know sign language. Can you guys hear me? Am I allowed? Chat, blink twice. We're in the future because there's a delay, so this doesn't help. So it's just you and me now, chat. I think Matchroom's gone. I think it's just you and me. So at this point, I will say heck Matchroom. I don't care about his opinion. It's just my opinion now. And I don't know if he can hear me, and that's the best part. So I can talk as much shade as I want. But the thing that I'm going to be focusing on for you guys is I want to see some of these teams that have been able to basically gatekeep the other lobbies. The ones that have shifted from Alpha to Bravo and kind of been in that talking area in the top 5 or the bottom 5, depending on what division you're looking at, over the past couple of weeks. I want to be able to see what their capabilities are when it comes to, can they really take advantage of the opportunity to playing with the lower half of the teams that they've been able to beat week in and week out. That's what I'm hoping to see if they can continue, and whether that's actually going to be an option or not, or whether it's even an opportunity or not, may be difficult. As for some of these lower teams, I really, really want to see how these lower teams are going to step up in the capacity to be, we can no longer be passive. We can no longer just hope for placement. If we want to have a chance, we need to play aggressive. We need to take kills. We need to go in, because the double points are no longer there. So every point does count. And that's not an easy thing to do. So should be exciting to see on how it all plays out. I don't know if I'm still alone here in this, or if Matt
I'm here.
is able
I
to
can hear
join
you.
me.
I can hear
That's
you.
my
now.
monologue for the day. I think it's out of the way. Nah, I think we're still getting some issues from Matchroom. So it is just you and me, chat. We're just kind of waiting for everything to load up, and as well as make sure everything is on point. And I appreciate you guys being in chat. For everybody here who's tuned in, I know some of you guys earlier were talking about how it was very, very late or early, depending on which way you want to take it. But we do appreciate you guys coming in here and watching and tuning in, even after the EMEA matches earlier today. We've got the Americas and a whole bunch of regions. I think my favorite thing, too, is the fact that we are getting some Brazilian teams and otherwise. And there's a lot of you that come out every single week and support them that we will be competing today. So looking forward to it. It looks like Matchroom may be back. I'm going to get off my soapbox and see if he wants to take the stage.
Can you hear me?
Maybe.
Can you hear me, Lawler? Hey, look. As we face things whenever online, just a big shout out to everybody on production so we can take care of that one. So, We're getting everything set and ready to go inside a game. I know we've been doing some over talk for just a second, guys, but we've got to make sure that everybody can get in the lobby. Everything is situated. Everything is perfectly fine and configured. So, with everything that's going on, it's nice to see everything getting situated, but it looks like there's a couple of little hiccups. It happens sometimes whenever looking at everything going across, because we're in two different parts of the United States right now, and we're also trying to get everything together all the way across different sections in the United States, where we're trying to get all of these players together, all the way down into Latin America, because remember, we've got a lot of Latin American teams that are competing inside this as well.
Matchroom, I think I can hear you now.
Oh yeah.
I see you on camera. I see you on camera. I made a joke last week about how nobody wants to see this, and then I pointed out my face, and then they turned off my camera. So I think they're taking that joke a little bit too far this week, but overall I think we're back to normal. I think we're good, right?
Looks like it. I can hear you. We're both moving on cameras.
Let's go.
Life is good.
Just getting it out of the way early, man.
Yeah. You'd rather get the hiccups now, guys, rather than right before game 6. See, we're doing you a favor. That's the way we're setting it up right now.
I mean, last week we ended up getting 2/3 of the way through the first game, and then it's oh, we got to start over. So we're just trying to do it now, so instead of during the games, it's not a problem, right?
Don't bring that.
Servers aren't an issue. Everything's fine. Everything's great. We're gonna get into the matches here shortly. It looks like the lobby is starting soon, so we'll be able to drop and get into the action in just a bit here. But again, now that you're with me and we can actually have a discussion about this, I talked about and kind of monologued a little bit about how I feel like teams are going to have to approach it. The ones at the top, now that TSMs and the Rogues and everybody aren't involved, they have a really good chance to kind of be what they've done in the Bravo division if they get dropped down. Kind of gatekeep, get those 60, 70 point weeks, and just overwhelm. On the other side, for the lower half, I need them to understand, you don't get double points. It's fair game for everybody. You need to come out super aggressive, otherwise you're never going to make those points up.
The big thing that I'm worried about is whenever we look at this, a lot of these teams that are towards the top are going to have this inclination to play passive, to try to survive, try to make it into late game, and aren't going to take control over territory because they're afraid to risk losing members early. And that leads to you just slowly and steadily losing control over the game. You need to make sure that, sure, even if you're at the top, you're still controlling territories around you, making sure that you're very effective inside of your rotations, and you're not playing scared. A lot of times, whenever you look at placements, the fear of who's at the top can sometimes cause a lot of these teams to really become their own biggest problem.
Well, hopefully that's not the circumstance this time. As we take a jump into the lobby, finally we got Team Superior and the rest of its teams. And you guys can see on the right-hand side of the team tracker, there was a bunch of teams all fully filled out, I guess the best way, except for one at the bottom, BKB. They last week as well didn't join towards the tail end, so I don't know if they've just kind of chalked it up and said, you know what, no. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. But as of right now, it looks like we've got all systems go and there's no issues. So we'll try to keep tabs on what's going on with BKB as we move forward here. We're on board with Yeet Squad, a team that I think is in that conversation of they've had moments. Last week, I think they did a really good job of kind of pushing themselves back into the area of being a top 20 team. And let's see if they can continue that this week. That's going to be the focus. I think a lot of the focus of last week was on Bowser. He had some pretty clutch moments.
Well, a couple of things to keep in mind is it looks like we're going to be making our way over towards Mirage Voyage and Train Yard there. So, sure, BKB not being here is slightly problematic, but I want to say to everybody that's looking to compete inside of events, even if things aren't looking the best for you, make sure that you try your hardest to compete through everything, through every single round, because you're going to be picking up new things, new skills. You're going to never know what you're going to be able to learn through everything.
Yeah, these guys have, over the course of the weeks, been able to kind of be in the same area, and even if they did get eliminated early, spectate the top tier guys. What is it about them that makes them so strong? Is it their rotations? Is it just their gunplay? What is it? So being able to translate that themselves, as you see a lot of action and aggression already come down on the kill feed as enemy girls getting involved. Team up top here in the area that has been a nuisance for many. As shots ringing down. A good wingman here from Phony and the rest, and 303 is going to pick it up for him as he's kind of just stepping in as a substitute, if you want to call it that. I know he's had some pretty big performances in previous weeks. But normally for me, the focus has been on Matt. I think Matt has been their kind of star player consistently throughout weeks 1 through 4.
Fan favorite, to say the least. Anytime we see him going off, everybody gets super excited about it. See Wraith One Tricks now, finding themselves with a couple of friends nearby, getting a little bit of tick damage off, trying to get control over this area. It's going to be big PP Bandits on the other side of it, doing a little bit of peek back and forth, trying to play this a little bit more cautious, but look at this positioning coming out, trying to find an interesting angle to work with. Nice little bit of harassment, gonna force out the Gibby bubble off of it, so that could be a capabilities for them to reposition into it and play this a lot more aggressive, like waiting for everybody to come back in with the team, reposition up towards the top, and just start to take control over the building. You now get to choose how you want to breach this, so try to get as much information as you can before you just make the mad dash inside.
Gonna be a hard one here, as Wraith One Tricks, team that we wanted to keep our eyes on, had a really clutch moment last week to bring it in. As you see, Sauce just trying to put some down on his own. His shots back and forth. They're going to sit back, try to play defensive as one comes up and pushes. Plenty of shields as well. Knocks down one. As it's going to be Teen who gets another and the squad right. Wraith One Tricks, big performance here early on. Secured those kills early.
Nice plays coming out for them. Glad I gave them a call out saying, hey, we should be keeping an eye on them. Yeet Squad on the other side of it. You can see trying to get more control. Jumping right back down into a Gibby bubble and just unloading out damage. Makes switch back over. This looks like it's very firmly controlled. Yeet Squad just decimating everybody around them.
Seems like they're going to use that bubble to their advantage, kind of backing off here. They did get shields off, but one of their players and Bowser ended up getting knocked, so can utilize the Wraith Portal, seeing if they can rotate elsewhere and get that revive off. Obviously, you want to take different positioning here, but need to be careful with the high ground as well, as it is Sola Fide on the outside, a team that's been very aggressive and able to get a lot of these kills using the Mozambique to put down some damage. The hop up, obviously, making a little bit more viable in somebody's kit, as Metro and the rest of the boys just going to take their time to loot up before they get back into the action. A lot of aggression here coming out early in a map that we talk about being a little bit bigger and, you know, having to wait a little bit longer. This could be issue for 6. But he is going to be able to make it out. So should be able to safely retreat. But the chase is on. Pride is right on the backside. Do whatever they can to close out this fight. Just trying to spot him out. Does do it. And a dink for 72. Right to the faces, Pride.
This is to be expected from Sola Fide. Whenever we're looking at this team, this is a very strong roster of players that have been competing for a very long time. So them coming into what is, let's be honest, a little bit of a weaker lobby should give them a lot of control to work with inside this. And you can see they're very much stretching out. They're trying to get control of everything that's around them. Mirage Voyage is presently theirs. And they're just kind of looking around, making sure to make that nobody can encroach on this territory. And as they do that, we're going to see them jump out, start to go for more kills, more and more control over this circle, because that's going to be their recipe for victory.
Jumping on board with Lifted, just putting some shots here as tempo. Not able to land anything, nothing really too worrisome, but pretty well kitted here. We take a look at Sir Lift a lot, and Novello trying to put some damage down with the G7 Scout. Not able to connect though, but is taking a couple of these cheeky angles. He does see that there's a Watson fence down over there on the other side too, so pushing probably not the best idea, but they do have to be careful of this map. Still a lot of time here with the round 1 circle, but if they want to, they could wrap back north and go the other way around. So they do have some opportunities here. It looks like they're going to take that deploy up. Curious to see where they go with it.
Unknown getting a little bit more control over this high ground territory. We see get a lot of love, mainly just based off of the vision. You can see as they climb up the hillside, they get so much just line of sight on everything that's around them. They control a lot of the rotations for these teams as they're starting to make their approaches. You can kind of inflict a little bit of damage. You don't always necessarily have to get the kill, but if you can get enough of a team scared to kind of retreat back, move on a different angle, you can make them forced to fight a different team. HRN still playing back over here with more, as everybody knows, coming over from NRG and being so strong for so long inside the scene, really draws a lot of attention to their play style. Especially whenever you couple them up with Simply and Urice, these guys have the capabilities to frag out. But whenever we see them move, it's a lot of mid-game fights. It seems to be where they've tried to find a lot of their successes. They are not afraid to go hunt down things that move next to them and really just try to exploit weaknesses in other teams caught in rotation.
Yeah, we saw more come in as a sub roughly like end of week 2 or possibly week 3, I think it was. And you could just tell immediate impact. I don't know if it was just because NRG was one of those teams that many considered one of the best for so long with TSM. His expertise, and it's definitely translated in how they've positioned and how quickly they rotate now. They just seem to be a little bit more coordinated with that veteran experience. So obviously a big pickup here as Hakulo looks like he is the only one available for the rest of the teams on New Brainers, as he's going to be watching Zera tick down here. Going to make a last play as has 10 seconds to go for the revive, and hopefully the audio cues aren't too much. So I do think there is a couple teams nearby. Need to be careful. But isn't going to be left alone on this one. So pretty happy that he's got a teammate to work with. As having a rat this early on, not going to be the best capabilities, as we still have 15 squads remaining.
I really like this. You saw the fact that as the approach was coming through, getting the Wraith portal, trying to make the play back over there, they brought the crypto with them, so that way they had a ton of information to work with, and that's a solid push coming up from TPH. But as it comes through, multiple drops come through, and that is a quick flight coming back around onto it. TPH does end up taking the fight, but got a little bit costly and a little bit nerve-wracking there for just a second.
Yeah, after the two went down, obviously you saw Gibraltar try to peek that stairwell. It does make the call out that there's another player there, but unfortunately gets tagged as he's trying to, you know, kind of go back around the other way. So needing to be careful here, ends up working out and showing just what the capabilities of that EMP can really do with the crypto when timed well. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to landing shots. Bunch of those shots landing and connecting for like 100+ damage with the Mastiff. So well played by them. It's going to be a quick, aggressive push there in Eastern Fragment East. So going to be rewarded for their efforts as teams starting to roll in. We are finally taking a look kind of here at where this map is going to go. So north of Thermal, a lot of teams that are originally there are going to have to rotate out and move north. So we jump on board with Wraith One Tricks, one of those teams that we mentioned very early on in the pre-show or early lobby stages about, you know, big performance last week, but just taking the time trying to be as sneaky as possible up the backside of this, as they're probably pretty aware that there's a bunch of teams kind of rotating in through above them.
Millions Gaming getting a little bit harassed right now, going to retreat back. Still have Watson sitting on gray shields right now, which could be a little bit problematic depending on how aggressive this play comes through. They're still playing back over towards the edge, so not really too much that they need to be concerned with. Not a lot of teams, unless somebody's just really on the hunt for kills right now. Got to be careful, as if we do see, looks like we do see AVZ get a little bit more shield coming into play, so it gets a little bit more area to work with. Next Evo Evolution coming in a little while, so that explains the gray shield. Just hadn't gotten into too many fights just quite yet, but Wraith One Tricks is really wanting to commit back over towards this. Talked about the fact that these guys like to play aggressive, doing quick bounces back and forth between the Gibraltar shield, trying to find approachment angles. Gonna instantly spot out one as they make the aggressive play off over towards them. Now they just gotta be a little bit careful. They have this dip to work with, so they can bounce in and out, but they do have one of their members go down, so you have to play this a little bit more cautiously. Looks like they're trying to get this flush out so that way information doesn't get fed back over to the rest of the team. But Millions Game is still holding up onto this line. They have a little bit of a defensive wall that they can play with. Goes for the peak and goes down now as well, and it looks like that's going to come up real quick and easy for Wraith One Tricks, but they do have two members down as they are the new kill leader.
Also need to be careful. The longer these fights go on, you can see it on the back end here. Solo Fide on the flank, trying to come in and reap the benefits of these guys engaging on top of each other, and they're going to get just that. So plenty of loot to work with here as they do force that player out. There's also another peek here on the right side by Clara. Just seeing if they can spot anybody. And just to the north is also Capital, another team that we're being blessed to be able to see from the other regions that we don't normally get a taste on. They had some pretty solid performances there in earlier weeks, but dropped down to Bravo and just never really able to claw on back. So glad to see that we get some eyes on them, and as they are able to secure a top 30 spot. Good rotation for them, having that high ground advantage.
I really like the positioning coming out from here. With all of this, you can see a lot of teams avoiding back down towards that lower area. A couple of teams going to be forced down there on the next circle. But it's just due to the control and vision that Mirage Voyage has over these points. You can see that you're going to have a little bit of that cliff facing still in play, so a couple of teams probably going to huddle around next to that. But not a lot of territory, so expect a couple of these teams, with as many as we still have alive, starting to try to make aggressive plays back over towards the position we're looking at right now.
Yeah, Mirage Voyage, I mean, you're taking a look at this circle. Obviously, they went and used that Pathfinder passive to give us kind of where it's going to be, and it's the only high ground that's really available and any hard cover that's actually available. So can be a difficult position for a lot of these teams having to rotate in, as you're seeing Brands and the rest of the guys here spreading out and just making sure that they cover all their angles, because even though they do have the high ground, Mirage Voyage, there's a lot of angles of attack on this one. So seeing them ping out some players.
Is it gives such great vision, but it's hard to defend, and that's why you see Capital constantly looking around, trying to make sure that they control different angles, different aggress points. But coming up back behind this, it's going to be Maradog, Rakashu coming up pretty dangerous angle. They're going to be walking up right back behind another team based on this approach. If they can manage to survive through it, but the problem is you can see it's lifted, that's holding down this nice narrow corridor and really in a beautiful gatekeeping position. So now the rest of the teams on the outside of this are going to have to figure out, do they make the aggressive push back around, or do they just shift back over towards the east and try to avoid this encampment?
Well, the other issue that Lifted needs to be careful of is there's another team just to their south, too, that's moving in. They're going to give the gold shield over to their teammate, allow him to aggress as they're trying to rotate through here as well. And probably the smart play here from Friendly, the team that's been trying to make their retreat, is cover their back end. Make sure that nobody comes in from the flank. So it looks like people are going to play this a little bit more passively. They don't want to really create this engagement as there's still 12 squads available as we get into these last couple circles. And with that, a lot of action is about to come in here in the next probably 10 to 15 seconds. So all these teams having to be forced in. Some on the outside. Friendly Gamers out in the open quite a bit as they had to leave their cover here. Should be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, Train Yard has a lot of elevation, a lot of different peaks that people can take as a fight breaks down here from Matt's Dog and the rest of the team. Kinshu actually getting absolutely lit, so he's going to drop down that bubble. Provides a place for cover to pull a shield battery, but still, the more that this fight continues, the more and more people are going to recognize where they are.
And so here comes the question. As you can see, a lot of these teams now holding down the high ground positionings, taking a couple of shots. KK Beans has been knocked down as well, so not in an easily resible position. But once you start throwing down the Gibraltar bubbles inside of these points, makes for very aggressive points where people can just start to third party and know where to look. As you can see, Unknown getting caught up into a little bit of a fight. Matt Pickett trying to hold the line for his team, inflicts a lot of damage, but now has to be very careful as the wall is about to go down. Does get caught out in this as the zone is going to come in and collapse, and that's going to be a mutually assured destruction for a lot of those people trying to crawl out of that position.
Talked about how in the next 10 seconds that circle was going to be the reason why. And you can already see the fights going down as trying to peek. 72 damage put down by Murddog. But unfortunately in that trade, you see the Gibraltar get dropped down as well. So we need to be careful and using that grapple to try to get away. But it's going to get punched out. So now only one player remaining here for Max Dog is able to try to get a revive. Going to need to get this one off quickly. This could be a potential for the push, but at this point, I think teams are pretty comfortable. And the big benefit Matt Stock here has as well is they are closer to the center of the circle when they need to make that rotation. So, going to force that other team out first as we see Free Smoke now on the north end side of the circle trying to move in. They've got a couple teams to their right-hand side, but overall should be relatively safe here.
Looks like they're the first team to really opt into that eastern wall. A lot of these teams on the outside still getting caught up into these skirmishes, and they have to be careful. They still have about a minute to work with, but they can't get caught in these fights for too long. They're going to start ending up stalling each other. Murddog, you can see, contemplating going for the respawn. This is going to be tricksy. If he goes for it, looks like he's going to be able to get it off, but at least have a third player that can kind of draw a little bit of attention. No, it looks like, oh no, it is in the process of respawning. So ship's going to come through, but Team Superior is set and waiting. And that is going to be problematic. Look at the angles that they can work with. Luckily, a little bit of defense is going to come out. And now Team Superior is trying to line up the shots as he manages to drop through. So he does manage to get to a little bit of cover. But now what is Superior going to do? They have to be careful about that high ground. They don't want to aggress too fast. They don't want to overstep their bounds and step into a trap. So starting to take a couple of bits of tick damage. Got to still keep an eye up on the top of this, though. So trying to retreat back to a little bit of cover to work with.
I think Max Dog has actually handled this perfectly. Having that high ground, they have one player, so they got the initial revive, which that two teams and those two players being available is absolutely crucial. While that was being aggressed on, the other player was then able to get the revive. They're able to get back into position and back to possibly their bodies. So trying to get some loot back here as they're going to have to rotate out. And it looks like they're going to use this Gibraltar ult for some cover as they do so. But they do spawn out a team. Absolute tons of damage coming down here from Kinju. As just one after another. You can see the shields being cracked as all these guys are going to have to push in. They do spot out the Wraith over to the right, see if they can get these last couple of shots down, and are going to be almost rewarded for it, but still alive here as this zone chunks away at their health. Needs to be careful the right-hand side. There's the last one, a big shot coming out, and 19 damage on that one is going to probably have the zone claim, but there's still yet another team in front of them.
This is the team that set up earlier. It's going to be Free Smoke. They've got all the defensive line to work with. They're just raining in damage on everybody that approaches off on this angle. So they just have to be patient, wait for everybody to come to them. Circle is now condensing down, so we're going to see where the next one goes, and it makes its way still back over towards Mirage Voyage. But right in that low point, you can see where a lot of the drop points are going to come in. HRN still looking back over on the other side of this, trying to figure out how they're going to make the approach. You can see they still have this road that's going to be in place specifically for the circle right now, but is going to drop out. So a lot of these teams that are using it, either high ground or low ground for some form of defense, are going to have to separate away from it here in just a little while.
The other difficulty too that HRN's dealing with is there is a crypto in the area and they keep getting spotted by this drone. So as they slowly make their way up, simply doing a great job of applying a little bit of pressure before this push is required. As shots coming down, he's been landing quite a few, and you can see just the impact that it's having. It's not for nothing. He's taken quite a bit of damage himself. He's going to have to sit back and hope that more with that wingman can apply some pressure as he heals up.
They don't want to over-aggress yet. They're still hitting in more and more tap damage. If they can get some connections with these throwables, that could be the go moment. Urias is going to go ahead and step forward right into the thick of them. Quick pickups coming out of that one, and HRN gets control of the bottom of this and has an easy path back over towards Circle. Meanwhile, back over with Free Smoke, you can see getting caught up. A lot of third parties are starting to come into effect on these teams that are on the outer edge of the circle. They know that they're going to have to rotate, but every single time they take a shot, everybody that's already entrenched back over towards the safe zone is going to spin back around and take a couple of pot shots their way.
Yeah, Free Smoke, that team that rotated so early, able to gatekeep one, and at that same time, they probably know they've got teams right below them that have been going through this fight for quite a while. So you see as the jump goes down and using that portal, I mean, HRN in a really rough spot, but does spot out with a good peek and a good angle. Simply just trying to put that damage down.
They've got themselves in a nice little almost gatekeeping position. They're not inside the zone per se, but you can see that they can control a lot of the territory that's next to them. And if they can continue to harass, and I like this specifically, just try to clear out people that could be rotating up behind you. Don't give them an opportunity to get implanted anywhere. It looks like HRN is going to use this opportunity to actually reposition all the way back over into a different point inside the safe zone. HRN now going to have a lot of control back over in this direction, but has to be cautious of those people that were back behind. Taking those couple of pot shots is going to force them to play back over towards the north and could give them some more territory to work with. Meanwhile, it's going to be Free Smoke that's just continuing to try to capitalize off on that northern point.
You can just see the difference in approach here. Free Smoke, who went the other way from HRN, now at the bottom of this cliff side, getting a lot of aggression here from Solafide, who should be able to clean this one up relatively easy using that Mozambique and the R99 as pride. Finds that last player in the corner, going to go for the flush and does get it out. So plenty of stuff to work with here as the last two players remaining. Solafide is still finding another fight and another cleanup. So Solafide coming out very aggressive, pride being that kill leader with 6 total. Unfortunately, none on the teammate that we're spectating right now. Curious to see on the third, but either way, placement-wise, I'm sure they've got to be happy as there's 3 squads remaining. After it all, though, HRN was able to survive. They had that team on top of Mirage Voyage that's probably still there, honestly, that they're able to fend off. It is Capital up top, who still has plenty of space to work with, so it's going to be Solafide, Capital, and HRN down below as our final 3 squads as we get into this last circle.
I really love this setup, but you can see Capital does have control back over towards the top for now. Most of the other aggressors are kind of playing back towards the mid and the bottom, which does give them kind of mean the fact that we might see them fight first, depending on how we see people try to play around this. I can't tell if there's still just a smidgen of Mirage Voyage that is in play, or if everybody's going to have to move down to the low ground in just this next circle. Couple of seconds to work with. Solafide is just sitting on 2, but you can see they're separated out away from the other 2 squads that are kind of posted up around Mirage Voyage right now. So with their positioning, they actually do have a couple of sight lines that they can play with. They have a little bit of a defensive line that they can set up on these other 2 teams that might have to move, and I can't tell. I think that maybe just this one point the Capital is at might be in. So they're going to have to play it patiently, and yes, they are going to be able to play from up here. And this is going to be a pretty quiet circle as it looks like everybody is hunkered down and rat cam's coming in full effect.
I don't even know if you want to call this one a rat cam, just because it's not a solo player. It's just, this is where they're going to have to hide, and the rotation probably going to be late. Luckily, they do have a Wraith that might be able to get them out of there. But either way, HRN kind of the healthiest at this point. Middle of the circle, high ground as well compared to the one below. Full team. The only one that doesn't have a full squad right now is Solafide down below. So Capital, even though they have this high ground, I mean, they're susceptible to taking a bunch of damage if that angle is there. And I think that's what HRN's hoping for, is that this third roster gets involved, as I think Capital's doing a fantastic job here, just peeking over the edge, making sure that they remove some of these Watson fences just to make sure that if they do end up dropping down, and that's probably what the coordination is right now, is how do they want to play this? They know there's a third team that hasn't really made themselves known, but where are we going to drop? Where are we going to move to? What are we going to do for this play? And it looks like it's going to be the Wraith portal, so this could be an interesting one. If they have an attack from one approach, people attacking from the top side, and then being able to reposition with that portal, they could put themselves in a really good position, and that's only if Solafide gets stuck in that wall still.
And you can see Capital going for the reposition to try to take out all of the Watson fences that are press right down below them. So Capital's now trying to get a little bit of a foothold to work with whenever they do need to drop, but it's coming at a little bit of cost of shields and a little bit more damage. The whole time Solofide is still just listening to everything that's going on. So as this starts to play out, Solofide can make a quick flank around and kind of be the instigator inside of this fight. I love the use of Wraith Portal coming back over into this, getting themselves into a nice position to spot out what's going to be going on. Sees the violence that's happening and going to try to step back and away from that, but not going to get away in time. Now just one member up. HRN's got a firm control back over towards the bottom of this, still continuing to throw down Watson trap after Watson trap. So now Capital's going to have to figure out how they want to get something out of this. They're starting to lose more and more of this fight every single time they jump down.
Yeah, Solofide is in a really tough spot. They do get the heals off, and as the zone moves in, as soon as they go through, they know they're going to be slowed, and this is going to be dangerous. And I think this is just good awareness of trying to buy as much time as possible. They're going to send the one that can't use the iframes, and then it's just all nothing from here as the shot's coming down. HRN on the backside, just trying to buy as much time as possible with this portal. You can see the way that it's utilizing as iframes just to move back and forth as everybody fighting with chaos. Solofide actually doing a fantastic job coming in late. They're able to pick up 2 and make it 3. They're able to close it out, and Solofide is going to be the ones that actually take it. The team with the least amount of players clutch up.
It's all about positioning, and Solofide played that so well. I thought that they might be in a little bit of trouble when one of their players got knocked, but did manage to retreat back away from that, get the res, get the shields back up, and we saw the two teams that were jockeying back and forth for defensive plays. We saw HRN do manage to set up and start to get more control, but Capital managed to pop up at the worst possible time for them. They were set up, trying to figure out what was going on with Solofide, and Capital said, hey, this is our moment, and tried their best to exploit it.
Yeah, it was a really good job as well by the Wraith from Solofide that was working their way in, making sure to go through the zone around the backside on that flank, so it wasn't an immediate, like, just turn and, you know, spray them down. So able to kind of weasel their way in on that backside is played extremely well as we take a look at the highlights here for game number 1. And a pretty aggressive game, I would have to say, for World's Edge.
Well, it comes down to the circles. Whenever there's not a lot of cover left, everybody just ends up having to fight towards the mid game, and we saw that was a prime opportunity for Solofide as they managed to just continually pick up kill after kill. Yeet Squad living up to their name as they just yeeted themselves right into this fight. Got off a lot of damage, but cost them just a touch. And talking about that mid game from Solofide, you can see the positioning coming up and not afraid to go after anybody in their territory and chase them down.
Yeah, it was just a really good play, and, you know, taking advantage of the fights. We saw it throughout the entire game from Solofide. Game after game, I mean, you were talking about how they came into the fights a little bit late, cleaned up, got the kills, and they did that on my account at least 3 times from what we saw on broadcast. So, again, Solofide, I think, playing it really well. Going to be happy with not only the ability to clutch it up with just those 2 players, but also the kills to boot. So, well done by them. One that was in a lot of that aggression too is Max Dog and their crew, as they found themselves having to rotate in some pretty awkward situations. HRN, I think, also did a fantastic job of clutching it up, and you saw the difference between kind of HRM and Free Smoke, where Free Smoke rotated to the right while HRM went to the backside and then played up. And that was a difference maker, unfortunately, for Free Smoke. They ran into our inevitable winners in Solofide. So, again, it's tough to kind of look at the rotations in kind of the optimal way. You just got to make sure you win those trades, and in this lobby, like, there's still a lot of really good talent out there. So, again, guys having to battle it out back and forth to see and get those spots, but an exciting first game overall.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to be needing to keep an eye on who's just racking up the kills. No surprise on this one, Solofide walking off with a round win. I know that they're probably the favorites coming in today. HRN as well, one of the teams that we discussed earlier. But I feel like what's going to be the separating value are the teams that are capable of picking up a lot of kills in the mid game. As we look at this, that can be the defining factor between who makes it into our top 10 and who does not.
Hey, man, I think that's what we're excited about with Wraith One Tricks and the rest of these guys that have been playing that aggressive game. So it'll be exciting to do what that is, but we don't know those results just yet. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll update you guys on the point totals and how everything's playing out, and then we'll get underway with match number 2 here on World's Edge. Everybody, welcome back to the GLL Master Summer for the Americas. We're in week 5, or last chance. Lawler, your host, alongside Matchroom, calling all the action today. And we just finished up game number 1, where Solofide took a very exciting 3-match towards the tail end. We had 3 teams kind of coming down to the wire, and those Wraith plays, man, able to clutch it up despite being in probably the worst position on the outside on that wall.
Well, they had the capabilities of not having to make the drop, and you can see that that's really what got invested between HRN and Capital. They got caught up in their own little skirmish, and Solo Fide was perfectly content to let them just continue to harass each other and then pop in. I thought that that Wraith Portal was going to be the death of them there for a second, whenever they jumped in and instantly got dropped and then had to retreat back out and away from it. But they did manage to get the res back up, reposition back in, run back in, and manage to clutch it up in the end of it. So I do like the way that they played that. That's a phenomenal knowledge of what's going on inside the game, expecting the drop to come through, and trying to use control of territory for their benefit.
Well, we know Solo Fide took the victory, but let's see how the rest of it played out with the kills that were to boot. And Solo Fide, as you can see here, not only did they have the first place in placement, but they also had 12 kills to tie with it. So something to notice here is technically we are no longer doing an Alpha and a Bravo division. This is just all the last teams. This is technically teams ranked 11 to 30th, and they are playing for exactly what it is. If you get placement points, if you get kill points, they're worth their total in full. That is it. So Solo Fide, really good round for them. A great start. And followed up by HRN, Free Smoke, Capital, TPH, Wraith One Tricks, and Max Dog.
Don't forget about Team Superior. Sure, 6 points isn't a massive amount, but they're a team that I definitely have my eyes on for the rest of this. Solo Fide does come out and make a massive statement for themselves, walking away with a ton of points. But can they continue through the next 5 rounds is the question. Solo Fide has got to be one of the preferred favorites moving in here, as well as Superior and HRN. Free Smoke, Capital Esports showing up as well inside of this, but again, I'm kind of looking back over towards the right side of this, and you can see it's kind of a dirge with not a lot of kills to be found. We saw that Yeet Squad managed to pick up 3, but other than that, it's just 1 on Ziploc bags, 1 on Noob Brainers, and big fat zeros for everybody else. So hopefully we're going to see them get a little bit more active in the earlier stages of the game.
Yeah, I think the important thing to think of that as we jump into our second game here. So I think Yeet Squad is a prime example. Even though they didn't get any placement points, 3 kills only puts them 2 points behind a top 10 performance. So again, kills I think are heavily weighted in this one if people are able to go and frag out. Obviously, there's a lot of risk with being that aggressor earlier on. But overall, I do think it shows the importance of what it means to get those kills here. And if people can really take advantage of that, obviously always going to be a risk if you take those engagements and if they sustain over a long period of time, but sometimes that may be worth the risk. So curious to see on how it plays out here in game 2 on World's Edge, as we are in week 5 of our last and final week of league play. So taking a look here as we jump on and see that Pathfinder passive, we are going to be ending up on the east side of Fragment, kind of TSM's bread and butter, but they don't have to worry about them this week. So open for a lot of players, and looks like Overlook can be a popular spot. So somewhere in there, people probably going to rotate through Geyser quite a bit, but a lot of area to rotate in through, if I'm being completely honest.
Keep an eye around Fragment East and just to the south of Epicenter, where we see different positions that can kind of, several different teams can kind of post down inside of those points. There's not a lot of other open territory that's going to be usable. There's buildings that you can kind of see scattered around, but Yeet Squad said the fact that we want to see them get into a little bit of earlier fights, but Bowser taking a little bit of damage, just having to retreat as quickly as he can to get away from this. Nice grapple to buy a little bit more space, but he's still going to go ahead and get spotted out and taken down. Quick flush as he spots out another person that he was not expecting playing off in that position.
Yeah, just really unfortunate, trying to get away and do whatever he can, but the difficulty of that is millions and the rest of the team just spread out really far, actually. Not sure why that player's even there on their outside on their lonesome, but just trying to spread out, and does actually get blessed for it between the skull piercer and purple shields. That's a pretty nice pill to come across.
So you can see everybody's still just trying to finish out their looting right now. Yeet Squad's going to have to figure out how they're going to handle the situation already being down towards 2. 6 and Nicewig. Everybody knows that Nicewig can stack up kills when needed, but whenever you lose a team member that early, kind of puts you in a little bit more of a defensive positioning from this point forward. Get a little bit more hesitant in making those aggressive plays that are going to be such a key component on getting those kills that are desperately needed for Yeet Squad.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how they can bounce back. I don't think they're going to be able to return the banner either, so pretty much facing 2v3s the rest of the way out, plus the third parties that'll come with it, so interesting to see how Yeet Squad is able to play. Obviously, they were a team that placement wasn't in their favor last game, but did have 3 kills, and unfortunate for them, they are going to be on the receiving end of the unfortunate circumstances here early as we jump on with our leaders, Solo Fide. Rotating through that area like you talked about for Epicenter. A lot of people, I think, are going to rotate this position, kind of where they have pinged right now, if you can see up and to the right as well. It's kind of that spot where it's got a really good deflate, and it's kind of hugging the backside of that cliff face, so A pretty popular spot for people to catch rotations, but again, a lot of options for these players here that are in the fragment area to where they want to rotate or not. But the benefit of being kind of closer to the circle, obviously a little bit more time to loot. So gonna be curious to see how it plays out. A lot of people actually showing favoritism towards that Prowler, as long as they've got the attachment for the full auto. So we've seen what damage it can do in previous weeks, but again, you still got to land the shots at the end of the day. So not an easy one for everybody.
So as we're looking back over here on all of the hillsides and all of the buildings they're playing through, Ziploc Bags is getting a little bit more aggressive back over here towards Epicenter. Remember, we talked about several teams are going to be trying to converge along this point. There's a lot of control that can be gathered, specifically like you were talking about just a second ago. You can catch people inside of rotation, and you have a lot of vision on what's going on inside the circle. The problem with it is you kind of do have to reveal yourself for it. Whenever you crest the top of these hills, your silhouette's going to make a lot of visibility for those teams that might want to just take a couple of pot shots at you. So a lot of these teams trying to move early, trying to find the dips and divots that they want to try to call home and work with. Looks like Ziploc Bag says, maybe it might be a little bit too hot over here, so let's just go ahead and try to take one of the buildings that are not yet claimed, as Solo Fide really wants to make sure that they get control over this hillside.
Yeah, doing a really good job to rotate. I mean, this is the place I'm talking about. So having this deflated, they've on the backside basically got all the cover, and the team's got to really aggress heavily over this outside in open space, which a lot of teams don't want to do when they push through. And then they also have the deflate cover to their southeast as well, where you have to kind of go over this initial hump to see if you have a peak. So pretty good spot, a really good place to kind of lock down in a big open area with a lot of different places people can rotate through. So hopefully it's not too much that they can't handle. But as we jump over to Bandits, who are sitting in Overlook, I'm pretty happy to just kind of sit and wait. There might be some teams nearby, but in the meantime, just kind of waiting it out. A lot of teams starting to make those early rotations, and I mean, the one that got to their little house here early, there is two in the middle of this circle, actually, right on top of each other that we may need to be careful of. As you can see, some shots going down from NNT.
So here's my question for you. Big PP Bandits. Are they Big PP Bandits, or are they Bandits of Big PPs? Gotta be careful when you name yourself like that. The connotations could be problematic.
With no punctuation, man, you gotta be careful.
That's true. You got to be cautious on that one. They've got themselves a nice bit of control. I like the vision that they can really execute off of here, and they've already got a lot of ways to reposition back over if they need. So they have a nice little choke point that they can kind of play from. Meanwhile, Wraith 1 tricks are kind of post up into a pretty nice position, but no inherent rush coming out from them as they're just playing the low ground right now and seeing if anybody's going to try to come and contest them.
Yeah, at this point, just trying to find a good place to hide, and Teen's showing exactly what he can do. For a lot of people that are a little bit newer to some of the mechanics that you can have with these pills and being able to hide behind. We've seen a couple people play peekaboo and just get caught off and even try to bait it. So at this point, just kind of buying their time, seeing what they're going to do, putting on a dance show for us. So we greatly appreciate it, you guys. But it looks like they found their spot. They're just going to use it to kind of block out here where we're the middle of it all. So
well, I like that. Defend up and make sure that nobody can come back down through the ropes, and if they do, make their life a little bit more problematic. Max Dog still kind of harassing back over towards Big PP Bandits and their positioning that they're playing at the time. It's just going to be a lot of peaks right now. Even with a knock, it could be a little bit hazardous to leave these locations. So fairly stacked up right now, and until you manage to really get something that you feel comfortable making a move with, wouldn't be surprised if it's just going to be a couple of like hello bullets. So really just trying to coordinate everybody and force everybody to stay in position. Hey, look at what we see here. It's going to be Easy Katka picking up some tasty, tasty loot.
Yeah, Easy Katka going to get involved in the vault here. Still plenty of loot to pick up. A team that we haven't been able to talk really about yet today. So they're going to be happy with that one as they rotate through Geyser here on the north end side. Been a hot spot in the past, but see Solafide using the advantage of that area I was talking about. A lot of open cover and a lot of places for people to rotate through, but also super susceptible to taking damage. So they're just going to put some pop shots down here on a team that's rotating through, and knowing if they land enough on Capital, another team that was found themselves in the top 3 that they're shooting at, this could be the entry that they're looking for. So OMM goes down. This could be bad.
Well, Capital does look like they managed to get into key position that they were in play. Heavy rotations back over towards center usually means the fact that you're going to take a lot of damage based off of rotation. Too many third parties just going to try to take you on as you make your approach. So, Capital now playing 2 different ends of this fight right now. Looks like they're going to opt into regrouping back over at the end of the Wraith portal instead. That's no surprise. Given the way that the circle's going to funnel in together, this is a little bit more of a controlled point to play from. Probably going to have less people that are approaching. If Capital is on the hunt for kills, though, they might have opted in playing in that a little bit more vulnerable location, but that's a recipe for disaster the longer that they stay there. Is it's just going to be too many teams just trying to harass them from range for too long.
Need to be careful. I'm not sure who we're on board with, but using that crypto to their advantage to spot out some of these teams before they make their play. It is easy Katka, it looks like. So obviously they were in this north end of Geyser and trying to move their way out, but it's actually a really good idea before they make this push. But at the same time, that is some information to the other team knowing that there's someone nearby. So I'm going to be a little bit careful here, but at the same time, Zone isn't going to force them anytime soon, as they still got a minute and a half until it even comes in and closes. So a lot of time to play, but at this point, scouting for information, need to watch their flank too. And that's kind of probably the biggest thing of their concern is if someone comes in from their backside. Could be a lot of danger and a lot of noise for some of these other teams.
Seeing if New Brainer's going to line something up. They spotted somebody just a second ago. Looks like they're opting to play back down here. They know that they have pretty far range that they have to move. So instead, opting to move a little bit early. They still have about a minute to work with, but you can see the separation now starting to come out, trying to get different control over different lines of sight. That way they can just really keep enough cover for their repositions off on it. Trying to get enough damage to really pincer back in. Enemy girls, finding themselves in a little bit of a difficult spot. They really can't leave the safety of their house right now. Every single time they do, it's just a ton of damage. Waz has to play this very cautious as both him and Cruisin' very low on life right now. It's just E-Boy Ronnie that has the health to work with. So on the other side of this, New Brainers might feel like they have the opportunity. Playing this one out, just going to play it a little bit more aggressive. Goes for the quick spray back over into that and gets a lot of damage off. Peeks back around the other side, tries to defend his teammates, and that is a quick pickup.
That's a really good fight by New Brainers. Obviously, they have the high side on that hill, and they put down a little bit of damage, and then from there, they just swarm. Attacking from multiple angles, just making sure they have everything covered. And then at the end of the day, it is, can we land our shots in the 1v1s? And they do. Hakulo does a fantastic job on one side and then immediately turns. The person just has no idea and just takes him out. So unfortunately for Anime Girls, they are going to be our first official team eliminated, as BKB is basically thrown in the towel, what it seems at this point. I think they did this last week as well towards the tail end. So unfortunate that they aren't signing up for the fans, but for New Brainers, they're going to take those kills graciously.
All right, so now New Brainer's starting to make the rotation back through. Still going to have to keep an eye and see if they bump into anything else. Lifted found themselves right on the edge of the safe zone and is continuing to harass. You can see Fragment East got a couple of teams that look like they're had some company over there, as it looks like the nice real estate everybody's willing to hold down. It's important, maybe one more team, but not comfortably off of it. So these guys are starting to set up a little bit more defense, trying to make sure that nobody else can approach back over. And that's a key factor whenever you're playing this caustic. Try to move into points that you know other people are going to try to occupy. So that way, if anybody decides to make an aggressive play back over towards you, you know that they're going to be close range with it. It's where you get the most use out of that. So right on the edge of the zone, you can see it's going to be a little bit quiet as everybody's just trying to get information, see if anybody's going for any peaks. But a lot of these teams opting to play very safe inside of their buildings, and this is where crypto becomes so valuable. When nobody wants to look around, you get the capabilities to safely just kind of spy around, see where all these other teams are at, and you can do it from the safety of your nice little base.
Yeah, you also see what he's utilizing there, the ability to hack open those doors and get rid of that hard cover. That is always a pain in the butt, you know, just being able to stand behind and put an object behind, and then having to kick that, just completely stopping any push. So you see if they're going to use that EMP to make that push or how they're going to do this. But again, just opening up everything and making this push as easy as possible. But there's so many teams nearby, and you can hear the fights going down. So see if they're going to make their approach or if they're just going to kind of wait for this one to come out. And that's kind of the hard thing too, is how do we want to play this? Do we want to go in for the aggression and make this third party and make all this noise? Or do we want to just wait for these guys to trade and then go after?
Keep an eye on the timer. That's going to be the giveaway on it. 1 minute and 30 seconds. All these teams are going to have to move towards the new safe zone. So nobody's going to be left back over into these spots. That means everybody that's holding down these buildings are going to have to move. Do you make the aggressive play or do you make the gatekeeping play? Do you reposition, try to go around all of the violence? Lifted looks like they're trying to move early and trying to get back into a point where they can just try to catch everybody on their approach. And it looks like they might be able to get away with it.
Yeah, it's a really good play by Lifted. And the first ones to make that decision are usually the ones rewarded. So you saw that Wraith Portal come out and the phase shift out, and they're able to rotate back into the new circle and kind of set up shop in a different area. So again, well played. But at the same time, the team that was on that back end with that crypto didn't actually end up using the EMP. So still able to use that if they move forward here, and hopefully they can utilize that information that's going to be provided with the drone. But again, still a team here is Motion, as they do have a team on their west side needing to be careful. Not sure if they're aware that they're still here.
And this comes into the delay. Whenever everybody's starting to take pot shots back over towards each other, it's just going to stall down everyone instead. Everybody's just going to have to rush last minute trying to get back over towards these positions. Trying to shift back around. You can see it's going to be contested up towards the top. Gibraltar Bubble's going down on both sides. Quick fire coming back through as the shotgun's going to ring down King. And that is a ton of damage being pumped out from TPH. Gonna look back over towards the remaining members, chase him back down the hillside, but doesn't want to overextend. I like the control coming out from this. Know you have the high ground, just go ahead and inflict the casualties that you can, and then retreat away from it and force them to reposition.
Well, the other part of it too is they were going to fight another team, and all of a sudden he peeks the corner, and there's 2 more members there. He's like, nah, that's a different team. I don't want that. So backs off and re-engages, but well played by Motion, able to swing all the way back out of that area. Now has the gatekeep potential as these teams can be pushed in, trying to drop down these thermites, see if they can get somebody caught out. As free reign here as the shots on the edge of the circle should be relatively with ease as long as they don't feel forced or pressured in any way. You need to be careful of the one on the back end side as well, as you saw Capital and the rest of these teams push through. Solafide was also in this area, our winners from the last game, but TPH, who came out really much so aggressive, now finding themselves in the terrible circumstance and just trying to delay it to the best of their ability.
So with this, Motion Team's going to get control over the high ground. I believe that we saw Solafide move just down just a little bit beforehand, and this is going to be where all of the third parties are going to start being a huge factor. Motion Team has the high ground, but you can see a lot of teams looking back over towards them. Solafide has managed to move into a position in a low ground point, very defensive, already inside the next safe zone, and you'll love to see it coming out, especially from the winners from our first round. So now, a lot of these teams are going to have to figure out, specifically back over towards the north and the southwest, how they're going to make their position back over towards the safe zone. HRN's just opting into a run and gun strategy, spot out anybody that they can, pick up more kills, and just continue the bloodbath back over toward the safe zone.
Need to be careful. Those shots coming from different angles, and you can see exactly why. All that noise makes it really easy for people to find. As Reese does get dropped down, it looks like they're going to use this portal to kind of reposition as well as get that that revive and then that ability to get their full team back into it. So they do drop it down. It looks like the revive's going to be here, then they're going to pop away. Unless Moore decides to go back and provide some cover. It'll be interesting to see on how they play this one out with that Watson. Ultimate is down, so passively regenning the shields. Not at the quickest of rates, but still better than nothing. They also do still have the ability to, if they want, disengage this.
Yeah, and
careful.
I like
it is a really rough rotation. Oh, there's another team looking at them from the other side, too.
They can inflict damage off of it. They've already got the portal down, so if they can manage to catch something, great. And if not, they'll just try to make every play that they can once they make the push back over towards the safe zone. Motion Team finding themselves in a little bit of a dangerous spot as HRN still continuing to harass from that high ground. Ops into the jump down. Quick spin back around, trying to hold up the line of defense for the rest of the team, but got to be very careful. They do have the zone back behind them. It's going to be moving in 30 seconds. It's going to be Motion Team getting a little bit more aggressive. Going to try to take a couple of shots and quick exchange, bouncing back and forth between the Gibraltar Bubble. Already getting dropped down, but going to go ahead and drop themselves. Just one member up, and got to be careful as it's going to be Maestro trying to rein in what damage he can. Get the flushes back over and see if maybe he can have enough time to work with. Just 11 seconds. What's he going to opt into doing? And it looks like the flushes are going to be the key component. He knows there's still one up. As he gets the kill leader, he gets taken down. So HRN, only one member up, still trying to make their way back over towards the safe zone, and they got a little bit of a ways to go.
That's a really rough one for Motion. So many people there that he had to thirst, but had to worry about the other team on the outside as we jump over to Eat Squad. Drop down Bowser very early on was the first thing that we saw getting dropped. So good job by Six, able to pick up some for his own, but he's got a nice wig on the side. Needs to be careful with his Gibraltar ult, and it looks like he's just going to use the retreat. Might be able to get to this portal if he crawls out, but again, the zone is approaching, and not a whole lot of time to work with, especially when you got all these other teams like Ziploc Bags on the outside.
So now just a beautiful firing line back down as they are just beaming anybody on approach. Anytime they step out of the danger zone, they're just going to keep taking bullet upon bullet. Gonna go down. New kill leader's gonna pop over for Ziploc Bags. They've got themselves a nice little defensive setup going on right now. Assuming somebody's coming up. Nice read on that, but a quick drop's gonna come through. Can the rest of Ziploc Bags respond in time? Quick peeks back and forth around this, trying to be on the hunt for it, trying to spot them out. Only one member still alive, just trying to hold out the defense, but there's gonna be a lot of third parties that are coming into play, trying to get away. Gobble is just trying to run out of this, but there are not a lot of good options in front of him. Instead, managed to find himself a little cubby, but he is now all by his lonesome.
Needs to be careful as well. A lot of those kills that were up and those other teams are going to be able to pick those up too unless they get the full wipe. So needs to be careful. Try to get something for his efforts. As he's able to live, he's still got Yo-Yo back on the other side. Curious to see if he's going to go and kind of re-engage on this one. But we do see Solafide, our winners from last game, on the low side here. trying to defend their area.
Yeah.
They're going to have to rotate out of this too.
This is going to be a little bit problematic based off of positioning. They know that they have a team above them. They really can't aggress based off of positioning. Superior also raining down a little bit of damage back over towards the southeast. They're going to have to make their way just a little bit further forward. Remember, we saw, I believe it was Big PP Bandits that was holding down this position for a long time. I'm uncertain if they're still the Kings, and yes, they are. They have lost one of their members, but still just trying to spy based on how all of these Wraith portals are starting to stack up around them. They've opted into the high ground and just trying to use that to deny any vision on all of these very aggressive approaches.
You also like the information that they're trying to give out here as well, where you saw him ping that grapple that goes to the top end of those silos, I guess we'll end up calling them, as we've got a Wraith kind of just on the lonesome. Not sure where they're at or who they're with, but trying to make this rotation in. A lot of teams going to have to be pushing into a really rough spot, and you can just see it as friendly gamers on the backside just getting ripped apart. As no matter where they peak, they're just getting more and more damage taken. As Solafide, still all three members able to rotate in pretty cleanly, as they do have some on their backside. Another team over to the right. There's going to be a whole lot of teams here and not a lot of room to work with, as just trying to use those arc stars to the best of their ability, and they do get taken out, but need to be careful as Pride. There's another one here, able to pick up the shield, able to go down for another 1v1 trade, and it's Max Dog and the rest of the guys being pushed out of this building.
Max Dog still just trying to hold down the defensive point right on the edge of the safe zone, but it's getting violent back over. 6 teams still up and active, 15 people still alive in such a tiny circle. It means the fact that we've got a lot of people that are just clinging to life in different points, such as what we're seeing right now. Just seeing if maybe they can find somewhere to buy a little bit more time, and hopefully somebody else starts fighting. But it's going to be Solafide that's got a lot of control on what's going on. They're one of the few teams right now not afraid to step out and kind of get a little bit more vision. With all of this being said, they're also getting a lot of the aggression thrown their way right now. So, depending on how these teams move, we might find Solafide caught up in multiple fights. Free Smoke still playing back around the edge of this, do have a little bit of the safe zone that they can still contest or work with. It's just going to be a matter of if anybody just tries to make their way back over and take it from them.
Solafide is starting to get aggressive. They do find those other players on the outside, so pushing in through, as Free Smoke does have a team right above them as well that they need to be careful of. You can see Solafide starting to move in as well. Shots coming out, and that was one of the teams that was in that corner. I think that was Max Dog and the rest of the guys as they're trying to push through and out of that area. They're still up there. You can see them, thanks to our observer, just in that corner, just holding out and trying to wait for some of this chaos to die down, but it's not going to end until the game is over. So just trying to be mindful of when they want to become involved. As you can tell, this team down below just waiting, just trying to go for those placement points. Ziploc bags obviously gobble the last one alive. Not necessarily a rat, just trying to play this one smart.
Well, after the early aggression, he's now the last member up for his squad. Still doing a great job on managing to survive. Max Dog's trying to make a push back over into this. Got to be careful, though. Instantly gets dropped. Solafide still just trying to hold the line. One of their members did go down, so they might have enough space to maybe get the res. Do deny the vision back over from Team Superior. Superior doesn't want to make the aggressive play and hop down just quite yet. They've got a lot of tools. They've got armor. They've got sight lines. They've got so much control over this. They don't want to give it up just quite yet, but you can see the amount of Watson fences placed down below them. With 4 squads alive, it's going to mean that the low ground is going to be a very hazardous place for them to try to make any play from. So, a little bit of back and forth coming out from Superiors. It looked like they were wanting to play this a little bit more aggressive. Going to go ahead and go for the execution. Yes, please give it to me. I've been waiting for one of these. Going to go ahead and drop them out. Big plays coming out from that one. It's going to be Leffrey that goes down off of that. Solafide losing one of their members. Now just down to 2.
Need to be careful as well on the backside. That player up top of that scout actually only had like 13 rounds too, so nothing in reserve as they're going to divvy out their last bit before this last push. But a lot of time to make this decision, a minute plus before it's all forced in for our last circle. So still 4 squads remaining, 1 down below here in Free Smoke, another one up top with Busby and the guys. Get Solafide on the outside, and there's still one somewhere else. I don't know if it was Gobble that was still able to be in this area or if he'd been flushed out yet. So Superior up on top, looking pretty solid here. And the team, and I'm pretty sure that's Free Smoke right down below. So
they've got to
see how this one plays out.
So now it's just a matter on how we're going to see this shape up. With the way that the circle's lined up, everybody's still got their own little territory that they carved out earlier. Question comes into play is how are we going to see the high ground from Superior be a factor in this? They have vision back over towards at least one of the squads, but I believe this is our last remnant hiding down right now. Rat just kind of chilling, waiting around the corner. Gobble still managing to survive out, and what I thought was going to be catastrophe for his team, still buying more space. But look at Solafide trying to play this a little bit more aggressive, and every single time they do, it's Superior that's just unleashing bullet upon bullet.
Well, Pride had to do the right idea here, move out early and try to get some of that information. You're going to finally start to see some of these Watson plays come down. You know, Gibraltar ultimates are being waited for this moment as well. So, again, for Solo Fide, depending on if they want to go through that or not, are going to get hit with the Watson fence right away. And this is why that Watson is so beneficial in these moments. As the bubble push here coming out, just trying to see what they can do, bobbing back and forth, using whatever they can to just delay. It doesn't even matter when those shots land perfectly. Everybody getting dropped down, and eventually Superior, who has the high ground in all three players available, is going to get the victory.
Just constant control coming out from Superior. You see, nobody could even go for a peek without them just raining down death upon them. Solo Fide was trying their best to make some type of aggressive play next to them, but couldn't, based off the positioning where Free Smoke was at, holding down the different angle for it. Free Smoke, every single time they tried to go for a peek, it just continued to be high ground advantage in the favor coming up from Superior, as they just pull out one of the best Obi-Wan wins I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it was just a really good play up top, having that high ground like you're mentioning. And it's kind of difficult, too, because they are susceptible. Even with Free Smoke down below, they had it pinged. They knew exactly where they were going to be. It just shows how important high ground can be when it's used quite well. I mean, Solo Fide was feeling the pressure from them at the same time as well. So even with minimal ammo on one of their players in Busby, as we jump into the match 2 highlights here, started off with some team coordination and a lot of early game rotation. That was kind of the play. Being pushed all the way to the top right side of the map into Overlook is just... It's a tough one, man. That's a lot of open area to get caught out in.
Yeah, I mean, you can see one of the reasons why a lot of these teams like to play around Epicenter whenever the circle goes back over here. Gives you a lot of options, specifically on rotations, because you can play the rocks, you can play different points. There's these little dips that you can hide in. And whenever you take these low ground fights, you really manage to separate out so that way the third parties don't become a bigger factor. You have to choose to run specifically into the thick of the fight if you want to participate in it. Ziploc bags. We talked about the fact that they continually tried to move into gatekeeping positions, and they had so much control until suddenly they just had a team jump out right from underneath them.
Yeah, we actually got to see the execution as well, which I know you and I are always a fan of. You don't really get time to do these in these matches, but Team Spirit played this well. Just 2 teams on top of each other, and then you can just see Busby with that devotion, just able to just inflict so much damage on the tail end that he doesn't even have to worry about it because nobody's focusing him at that point. He's just free reign. So a ton of damage going down there, and Superior does a great job of it, you know, being patient, having the high ground, and honestly just playing positioning game at this point, and they're rewarded for it. So again, just goes to show that anybody can take a advantage here. Superior was that team in week 3 going into week 4. They were a top 5 squad. They've had performances. It's just, can they recreate it? And here, bounce back in game number 2 is a great way to show it.
Yeah, I mean, they walked away, I think it was like, was it 6th or 8th, somewhere in that range, walking away with 6 points inside the last game. So coming up, walking away with a victory this time is going to be huge for them. Remember, no double points, no nothing like that. It's just 20 teams entirely fighting it out right now. There is no more lobby B. We've already had 10 teams automatically advance, 10 teams already eliminated, and now we're still just trying to find out who our next top 10 teams are to go on to the finals for Americas. So with this, big performances already coming out from Superior and Solo Fide.
Well, with that said, man, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, guys, for the GLL Masters Summer here for the Americas region, we're going to keep you guys on our last match for World's Edge. We're going to tally up the points, see who's in the lead, and then we'll get into it. So don't go anywhere, guys. GLL Masters Summer, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer Americas Edition. We're here for week 5. Myself, Lawler, alongside Matcham, calling all the action. We appreciate you guys being here, but obviously we ended up finishing up game number 2 just a little bit ago, and we're going to jump into kind of the results in just a second here. But overall, obviously, big kill games have kind of been the focus, and in this last one, Team Superior takes the victory with 10. So pretty big start for them as well to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Solo Fide walk away with massive amount of kills back behind the Superior in round 2. Means the fact that that's going to move them into a nice positioning on this leaderboard whenever we look at it in just a second. Really, my question is going to start being, whenever we're looking at our top 10, where is the dividing line going to be? How are we going to start to see the stack up? Who are our top 10 teams going to be, and how close is that race? Team Superior walking away with a massive 22 points inside that. Solo Fide back behind them with 14 points with 5 kills, and then Ziploc Bads picking up 6 kills as well, moving into 11 points.
Yeah, essentially a mirror match here between Superior and Solo Fide, where they're swapping positions and roles with the points that they're getting with them. So Solo Fide had a 24 game in the first one, and then was right behind. So they've pretty much swapped. So the big one that I want to focus on, though, is Free Smoke here. Free Smoke had a 4th place finish in the first round as well. So kind of keeping themselves in that spot. So doing a really good job as we take a look at the overall leaderboards. You guys can kind of see how things have played out through 2 matches. And just like I talked about, the difference between Solo Fide and Superior, very neck and neck. And HRN, Free Smoke, Ziploc, and the rest just right behind. So a lot of good efforts here. But the one that I'm keeping my eye on right now is the Brazilians. Capital Esports having a fantastic week.
Yeah, see, I draw my attention back down towards the bottom there. Wraith, One Tricks, Motion Team, New Brainers, Friendly Gamers, all very neck and neck. You can see 10th place right now, which is going to be our dividing line. I know, guys, we're saying it so much, but it's important for today. Whoever ends up in the top 10 teams are going to be going on. So there is a 3-way tie for points right now. And we even have kills tied up between Motion Team and New Brainers. So this is going to stay neck and neck, as the next game is going to be our halfway mark for the day.
Yep, and kind of transitioning now into that. So obviously we've got 2 matches down. We've got 1 left to go on World's Edge for today before we take a little bit of a break. The little bit of a break is literally like a 1-minute difference. It's not really a bigger break.
Oh, but it's so bad, Lawler. How are we ever going to last an extra minute so the players can like grab a snack? Oh my God.
How dare we? How dare we, man? I don't know. But realistically speaking, if you guys want more details or want to follow along, at the bottom of your screen, it should show the detailed leaderboard. You can go to that website, play.gll.gg, for more details. But yeah, man, it's a tough one, man. Those top 10, I mean, with it not being the double points, it is neck and neck. The fact that these guys, you know, are all tied in that 10th place spot. There's 3 of them, and Yeet Squad's only 1 point behind. The team that unfortunately was on the receiving end right at the beginning of getting knocked out, so having to play at a disadvantage just goes to show that it is going to be a nail-biter for those last couple of spots. But you are starting to already see in the first couple, the teams towards the top really start to separate. And at this point, you know, are on a fantastic phase of getting into that separation, as well as, I mean, you're ending up with what, you know, 70, 80 points has been a really good week for some of these teams, and they're definitely on that path. So Superior now taking the lead, jumping on with them in our jump phase for match number 3, our last one on World's Edge. It kind of makes me believe, are they going to be able to kind of recreate that? You know, I had a little bit of concern with Fuzby up top with that scout and only having 13 shots, but then he swapped to a devotion and it didn't matter. So goes to show, what do I know?
Keep in mind, as we look through everything as it going through the day, if we keep seeing teams like HRN, Superior, Solo Fide maxing out and taking a ton of kills and points, that means every single point further down on the leaderboard is going to become that much more vital. As we're talking about, it's only at 7 points right now as the dividing line for top 10. So that means that if you're picking up a couple of kills in the early game, that's really the differentiator between if you're going to be in the top 10 or not. So popping back over here with Free Smoke, because it looks like they're just going around making their little bit of a loot run here, as the circle has popped and it's back over towards the west. Thermal Station, to no one's surprise, we get Pathfinder, also going to be pretty popped up in the middle of that one. It's always got to have 1 Thermal Station game per day.
I feel like this is just our curse. You and I together match them for whatever reason. Thermal Station is always a guarantee at least some point, and sometimes it's all 3 maps like we got in like week 3. So
safe loot point, to say the least.
To cap it off for us, I guess, man, it's got to go to Thermal. So should be exciting. One Team Superior was a team that, along with Sentinels, like to get there early and play that top middle area, and have been able to secure victories because of that. So we're just going to see on how quick these rotations end up playing out. But for Superior, who's all the way in Lava City, that's going to be a big rotation for them.
Yeah, the speed and rotation is very dependent on teams. Some teams like to move slow, try to fight along the edges of the safe zone as it moves forward, maybe try to pick up a kill or 2. But given the fact that we're in a last chance style situation, early rotations might be a little bit more favorable for some of these teams, just trying to make sure that they make back over towards the center very quickly. Free Smoke finding themselves in a very interesting situation very early, as Clayton's trying to do a little bit of a peek around, finding himself in a little bit of a caught position, but the rest of the team's coming over. I like the reposition coming out of this. Quick pickup for a ton of damage. Got to be careful about that thermite on the ground, but very quickly putting on a lot of damage back on the opposing team. Free Smoke's continuing to harass. While they try to retreat from this position for just 1 second, they've got the firing lines now, and they are on the hunt to chase down the last remaining member.
Yeah, Free Smoke plays this really well, just taking different angles. There's only 1 person left. From backside, trying to get that Wraith as they rotate out. Just needs to get that reload, and it's not even going to matter. They clean it up and pick it up. A great start here for Free Smoke, a team that I, again, mentioned, you know, a 3rd and 4th place victory. It's a good way to go, as New Brainer's going to be aggressive and peeks that corner, just absolutely gets shredded as Mercy. As Aculo and the rest try to come in for backup, but it's not going to matter. The cost trap is going to force them to back up a little bit. Luckily, they still have that bubble, but again, the longer this fight goes on, there's more teams in the area that can come and join in. So Gonna have to hold off a bit here. Not able to aggress as much as they wanted to.
I like the aggression coming out from it, playing around the caustic smoke, not leaving the position, making sure to pick up the loot as well. On the other side of this, lifted now down to just one member, having to leave everybody else back behind. Quick run away from this position. Not too long of a trek, but a hefty enough trek to be very nervous all by your lonesome as you're going to be making this push.
Yeah, it's really rough for Lifton. I understand the backup too, but that's the difference maker. I mean, New Branders immediately, as soon as they get it, even with knowing there's people in that area, just aggress, and they do it as a unit. So those trades, even though it looks like, I think it was Mercy was the one that was on the receiving end of most of it, it doesn't matter. They come out on top. So well done by New Branders. That aggressive play ended up benefiting them, as we have a lot of players already starting to settle on the southwest side here at Thermal Station. We saw a lot of teams like TSM and Energy and Rogue and all the big names really fight over these different buildings in our weeks of the past. So glad to see a bunch of teams already utilizing that now that they don't have to fend for them themselves. I mean, you can kind of see already in the circle here.
Yeah,
these
there's a
teams
stat.
have solidified a spot in that area. But I'm looking at the tree right now. A lot of these teams trying to go through the choke point. And I'm curious what the team is right above the team that we're spectating right now that has already made their aggression in. So going to be rewarded for it. Yeet Squad on the southwest side as well. Going to be able to get Bowser back into the action. He was the one that was dropped super earlier on last game. But going to drop the Gibraltar ult. Should allow them a little bit of time to actually retreat and heal back up before they take this fight.
I like this. Just play it defensively right now. You've got control over position. Everybody's going to have to come to you. A lot of utility being thrown out right now. Wait for that to all go away and then try to make the play based off of that. Million still looking back up on the hillside, trying to find some type of vantage point to play from. Moving closer and closer based off of angle. Now starting to make a push back over towards the door, but it's Yeet Squad still just trying to defend it up right now. Styx has got this door frame that he's trying to play around. It has two members that are right next to him. The grenades are going to start coming out. That's going to blow out the door, so he has to retreat away, feeding that information back over. The team looks like they're starting to say, okay, how do we make a play around this? As Millions is just swarming around every aspect of their complex.
Getting shot on the way out, though, so need to be careful. Might have to retreat a little bit on this one. It looks like they're going to do just that. So initial push was there. They had a couple good picks, but credit to Yeet Squad doing a fantastic job of actually just holding down the fort and making sure that they fend off the castle.
Play the different angles inside the hallway, trying to make sure that you defend for as long as possible off of it. But the problem now is the fact that they could find themselves gate kept out. Motion teams now starting to look around. Similar position, going to go ahead and get a little bit of damage off on them as well. Got to be very cautious, going pretty low on life. Two of their members have to drop down into a defensive point. No shields to be found on anybody as Heat Squad's getting a little bit more aggressive. Bowser is down, but it looks like Six and Nicewig still managing to defend up for now. Do they have the time to get enough out of this? And yes, looks like they're going to go ahead and throw down the portal, get a little bit more safety as they still have about 1:40, but they still have to make their way back over towards the safe zone here. And just, well, they're in the present one, but I don't know if they have the information about where the next one's going to be at.
Not necessarily agreeing with that portal usage either. I mean, they got the team to back off and they're fine, but you drop the bubble. That's all the defensive play you need to make before you go back inside. So again, don't know if it was really worth utilizing that and putting it on cooldown. Hopefully they've got some accelerants to kind of bump that back up, because they're going to need it for rotation here possibly in just a little bit, as there's so many teams here that have been in tree this whole time that are going to have to rotate out. You can kind of see Superior just trying to rotate and seeing if they can spot anybody before they make their aggressive push. But again, still a minute, a lot of time to work with. We've got three teams on top of each other here in each of one of these domes, so curious to see how it's going to play out. Luckily, though, for Yeet Squad, like I mentioned, wasn't really in agreement with the way that they used that portal, but they're the closest to the zone on the rotation. Not that they're going to have to make that for at least another probably 50 to 60 seconds as this round. You can see it on underneath the minimap on the top left. I mean, 40 seconds till it closes in and a shift comes out. So fight here between Motion. Trying to land a couple shots and a great thermite on the backside. Lands on Hefe.
I like the fact that these teams are starting to venture out, figure out how much territory they can kind of aggress around. Motion teams being a little bit more cautious on this, but see peaks back and forth. Got to be careful with every single one of them. Then Max Dogs just said, hey, screw that. Let's get a little bit more up in everybody's face. Just going to roll back in there, try to get off a little bit more damage, but starting to look around. Repositions now coming out from the other team. Max Dog opting into the high ground. Going to go ahead and take it off to the side of it. Gets a decent amount of damage, but it's a quick peek battle back and forth on this one. Does get the down now, peeking back over, trying to get the last couple of shots, see if they can connect off of it. Murdog has to retreat. We can still see it's going to be Kiki Beans off to the side of it. Do manage to take this one down. Now got to kick down the door to get to the tasty loot.
Yeah, just a great play and the re-aggression back and forth. But now we're finally starting to see that fight that was going down in tree. It is Yeet Squad that is on the receiving end of getting punished. And just like that, Bowser's going to get dropped as well. And Yeet Squad has been eliminated by Team Superior.
Superior now getting more control back over towards the southeast. With this, that means the fact that it's more kills stacking back up. We talked about them and Solo Fide being able to stack up a lot of points inside of a game. And you can see Superior already starting up on that roll. TPH now finding themselves in a very interesting spot there as they're going to get taken down. Thermal, though, is just starting to be where everybody is starting to make their home. See a couple of long-range shots going out between all of these teams as up on top, Ziploc bags is just trying to scout out where everybody is positioned around them because that's going to be key information as the circle gets tighter and tighter together.
Do have a rat, and I've actually come prepared. If you didn't get to watch EMEA earlier today, they had a little poem for you. So I've made a poem. I came ready. You want to hear it?
Oh, I am prepared for this. Bring it to me.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
He spends his day nestled against a wall, wondering how he'll survive it all. Shots rang out all around his nest, trying to survive his little rat best. Placement points are what he desires, while the others searching hope he retires. So here's to you, lone little rat, as we do our best to entertain the chat.
I like that. That's very good. Oh, even getting the claps.
Oh, wow,
they were prepared for this one on it. I'll give you a little bit of love with it. Yeah, there you go. You've been doing homework off of this one, see? Now I'm on the spot to think of ones on the fly. No pressure at all.
Those are hard, man. Those are hard. So fun fact, a long time ago, I actually used to be a vocalist for a metal band when I was younger, and I did like all of our lyrics. But I never had to do them on the fly. Like, there's no way that you can make something like I heard Gaskins earlier, and I was like, that's pretty good for on the fly. Credit, man. So I'm just not as creative as a EU guy. I just can't.
If it's a metal band, don't you just scream for improv?
No. It's unfortunately not how it works. Even though people would like to assume, there's actually a lot that goes into it.
I'm just making a joke. I know. It's okay. Not attacking you by any means. Speaking of attacking, though, you can see Millions got the high ground right now. And they are in a control point, to say the least. Look at the vision for days they've got up there. So harassing teams as they make their approach back over towards Thermal. So with this, they are in a pretty good spot. And they can also catch people that could be playing back over towards the southeast, trying to use that, I guess, choke point to make their approach into the next zone.
Starting to get really fond of this Millions team as well. They've been so aggressive going for a lot of these shots. So they are able to catch out. Superior looks like was on that rotation, and to the players getting dropped. Luckily, Prodigy was able to get around, but curious if he's going to make this play. He doesn't really have a lot to work with. Very dangerous decision as well.
Yeah, Max Dog and crew are the ones that are trying to push around that curve where we can see Millions playing at. Superior now down to just one member, and it's going to be Prodigy Aces trying to make a play around this. Gonna have to be very careful. Luckily, he is in a pretty good spot. I think he's pretty close towards the center of the circle, so he can rat this one out for a pretty decent amount of time as long as he can find himself a nice, stable home. Problem is, most of the places around him, he knows are got somebody that's already trying to hold it down. He's finding himself in a lot of very awkward duels to play around. Speaking of which, Millions looks like they're going for their reposition now and looking back over towards how people could be approaching into this. This is a very good gatekeeping point. As you can see, playing around these crates, they can look back up the hillside and try to spot out anybody that's going to be rotating through.
Yeah, really rough one here for a lot of teams trying to rotate through, and it looks like... Did Beans actually catch somebody on the backside here on the lower half? Not sure if he noticed them or not, but does see that the loot has been taken. Millions is right around the corner here as well, so you can see engagements coming out as this one's starting to shift to the very left side of Thermal, so a lot of teams that did move in there early being rewarded. As you can see, other players across, as you can just see how many teams are really stacked up in this area, so trying to probably avoid fights at this point. Don't want to take any extra damage.
Really, it's everybody back down towards the south, and that means the fact that as the circles start to condense down, it's just going to be a bloodbath down here. Teams closer back over towards center and opted into that position early are going to find themselves rewarded, or teams that opt into doing a very far northern rotation. Up there is pretty wide out in the open, and due cause is there's not a lot of clean paths to make it into the later potential circles. So, as everything's starting to situate out, you can see some of these teams are getting a little bit more confident in their aim. Millions still playing out in pretty open areas, trying to find just different peak points. As we've got double up the rats now, posted up in different positions, hiding out. That Pathfinder is in a very sneaky spot, though, and it's going to be a while before anybody probably spots him out.
He also kind of blends in, too. He's got, like, this cool backdrop with the fire and everything. Oh, gosh, there's more than one. There's so many.
Oh, my God. Are we going to continue to just keep breaking this down? So you can see that out of our 13 squads alive, there's still 30 people alive, and a third of those are going to be our rats that we're looking at right now, and it's going to be TPH, pretty close to his next shield evolution, but not wanting to take any more damage at all. So now we can see that we've got a lot of people just kind of scattered out into different points, but I think that K&D has got himself the tastiest of tasty spots still inside the next zone on top of that.
Yeah, it's just not easy to work with either. Because you hear all those shots going around nearby. And it's like you need to make the rotation in, but at the same time, you don't want to force anything. And I think TPH is doing a good job of checking that train as well on the backside. You just never know. So a lot of these teams, Millions as well, was that team that was kind of in the middle of it all, ended up rotating and wrapping all the way to the south. Ended up losing a player in the meantime as well, as they do spot out one. Great shots coming out from Evzy. Seeing if they can clear it out. Does get a drop on one on Klain. Trying to go for the flush, get the points, and is going to get the dedicated points here as well. So good effort here, able to level up the shields as well. His teammate nearby just trying to watch the portal, making sure nobody comes in. But need to be careful of their flank. Another team down the back end here.
Free Smoke in a little bit of trouble going for the chain reses right now. Well, say get the res on one, maybe get the banner on the other one, but it's pretty late in the game. Millions Gaming playing back over from here, now finding themselves in a little bit of trouble just trying to get back around over this corner. So luckily they do find themselves a little bit of a dip to play, but Free Smoke still just trying to survive right up here on the edge of the safe zone. A lot of teams now funneling back in. We said the South was going to be hot, but you can see it's getting pretty contested. Looking back over here, Rambo does spot out one of the remaining members, but the information gets fed back over. Quick pickup, and that's going to be all she wrote for them. Ziploc bags, here's everything that's going on, but has themselves presents from heaven that are going to be dropping down in addition to a fairly defended spot.
Yeah, really lucky there that it ends up working out, but Max Dog and the rest of the crew playing aggressive here on the back end. You saw Millions end up being on the receiving end of that just a little bit ago, as these teams just trying to go somewhere where they can hide and have a breather, but it's not going to matter as they're getting hunted and shot from every which angle. There's another player from Millions getting dropped down here from Murdog. They did get a little bit of information from it too, from Unknown that was taking shots. The difficulty for them is they got to rotate into this. This team's got hard cover and plenty of places to be careful with. Even more so now with the Watson defensive play as well on the ultimate.
That's the problem, though, is a lot of these teams back down towards the south are going to be looking towards Unknown's position. They have to play this very carefully. With the amount of people that are still alive, 20, all things up and open. Look on the map right now. There's a no man's land right in the middle of everything. TPH managing to hold out right now. Pander's coming up big for his squad, still buying another position point. So you can see rotation starting to kick off. These teams realizing that the south is a little bit too hot, now starting to make their way back over towards the east. The solos right now as Panders, you can see on thermal station proper, gonna have to make a play back over towards the safe zone, but there's not a lot of territory that's left unclaimed. So when you make this play, you've got to make it loud and aggressive, because you do not want to be caught out in the middle of nowhere with no cover to play from. Instead, opt into going for building breaches, and that's going to be what a lot of these teams are looking for.
No, you're exactly right on this one. This place is really tough to try to rotate out, and unfortunately, that player from Superior, the last one left, gets spotted by Max Dog right off the top and immediately takes that portal out. So, again, Max Dog is trying to find them, trying to see if they can set up shop somewhere, while at the same time removing that player, but they know the more they aggress, the more they're putting themselves susceptible to taking some of this damage. So, again, Panda's just trying to get out and get picked up. There's just nowhere really to hide where there isn't a team, and a team that we haven't really paid attention to since the beginning was Sola Fide, even though they are a leader in a very good position and a very good spot here on the top side, but need to be careful of that high ground rotation. And curious on where this one's going to shift. So here they are, poised up, ready to take another victory. It's not going to be easy. A lot of teams over here to their southwest. It's pop shots from the wingman from Pride. And a lot of these teams just waiting to try to push in. They're trying to delay it as much as possible. Third party is kind of the game here.
Nobody wants to move right now. It is hazard to go towards the center of the circle. Everybody knows that. Max Dog, you can see, trying to make the play back over. Takes a lot of damage back from behind. Gonna be Beans just managing to survive that one through. Looking back down now, knows somebody's down below him. Goes for the drop down onto it, but Noob Brainers is patiently waiting for that one. Instead, retreats back. They've got themselves a nice little cubby that they're trying to call home, but we've got some people that are just trying to come in and take it away from them. Noob Brainers trying to buy a little bit more space to get their shields back up, find something to work with. Spots out more off in the distance, trying to harass what they can, but every single peek is going to become more and more costly. Really, it's just a duel across the way. As you can see, the new circle has popped, and it's a hard shift back down towards the south. So now New Brainers know they are going to have to make some type of play around this position. They are going to have to take out this team, reposition, funnel out, do something to get away from what's happening in front of them, because while they're safe now, they only have a couple of seconds before they're not going to be inside the safe zone.
Just goes to show how difficult this game can be. I mean, New Brainers is in the ideal position of what they wanted. You know, off to the center, nobody in their way. But Max Dog with a great rotation actually going on the top side here. But unfortunately for them, Sola Fide ends up spotting it out. So attack damage coming out able to apply some aggression and might be able to aggress. But again, there's another team down below. Probably at this point, you need to take what Pride is doing and start moving up. There's no real purpose of taking this fight and engagement. I mean, you're so close to the end. Those kills are going to get to you eventually. So go for the positional game. Try to get into this circle and kind of gatekeep to the best of your abilities. As a lot of these teams deciding to back off. It looks like New Brainer is going to do just that.
Now reposition starting to come in. New Brainers know that they have to make the move. They saw the reposition coming out from the other team, so they know that they have an opening to work with. The problem is this last little bit of a jump is going to be a problem for them. Solo Fide caught up in this fight, trying to harass as much as they can before they have to start to make their move. 5 seconds before they're about to have to make the push off to the side. Pride looks like he's already set and waiting to go. The rest of the team now starting to make the hop. It's going to be just bouncing from cover piece to cover piece as they go, making sure that this team that's back over towards the side of them doesn't get too aggressive. They found a little bit of an opening. It's going to be that wide open space, and they're just continuing to harass off the side of it. Quick pickup on 3. Now looking back over, seeing if they can top off one more, but Solo Fide continuing with authority to move towards the safe zone. Now everybody's going to have to start turning their eyes back towards the north as it feels like Solo Fide is starting to get in their own groove.
Authoritative play, as you mentioned, but a lot of aggression going their way as well. As you're seeing, fights come out left and right. 5 squads remaining on the back end. Solo Fide able to kind of weasel their way into this back end here, but taking it with a lot of damage as well. One of the players does get dropped as kind of threading the needle here. New Brainers on the back end side need to be careful. Solo Fide on their south end. They're able to pick up a couple of drops here as they're getting attacked from a different angle as well. You're going to see Unknown, the team that's kind of been playing this passive, going to go for a surprise attack up top and putting down a bunch of damage, but immediately gets return fired. He's going to retreat and says, no, I want to live to fight another day.
So Unknown has control over the building right now. HRN still just trying to make a play around the outside of this. Got to be very cautious. They can see bubbles coming down that they know that there's a potential fight. New Brainer still just trying to hold down a defensive position. One of their members is already down. Hackalo's very low at the time, trying to go through the peak from the fence to see if maybe they can spot out a little bit more. Hackalo's trying to take the time, seeing maybe they can get the res back up. Looks like Mercy's going to be able to get this res. So with this, you can see close positioning coming out, but not a lot of territory to really work with. HRN's eyeing the repositions on this. They have themselves a nice point to play from. They've got a little bit of cover. You can see bouncing around the top of this one is going to be Uri's right on the edge of it. So maybe you can catch somebody inside of rotation. Doesn't quite connect with a lot just yet, but you can see everybody's having to move at the mercy of HRN.
Yeah, HRN's got a great position as well with that cliffside. A high peak as well. Obviously, they're not exactly safe either, but probably the smallest rotation out of all these teams are the one that's already on the outside. So again, trying to just apply any bit of damage, trying to utilize and actually hold on to a lot of these throwables because they're going to be absolutely crucial on the rotations. As Unknown back to their house. They've got a team right on the outside as well on both angles. So needing to be careful as they utilize this fence. But it is going to force them to push straight into another team. So trying to get a couple shots here is Phony. Straight into HRN. They do see him dropping down. The bubble comes out. So just trying to delay this as much as possible. Now, Watson ultimate going to be an absolute huge factor. Only 3 teams remaining. HRN got people pushing into their house as the bubble on the backside just trying to bob and weave his more. Unfortunately, he gets dropped and gets the trade, at least for it, as HRN simply the last one available, just trying to do whatever he can as everybody pushing him, and he's going to get dropped. And it's Unknown that ends up coming out with the victory.
Defenders of the South, they held up for so long right there. Every single time a team tried to approach back over towards their house, they managed to hold on for so long there, continuing to rain in damage on every single team that approached. I love the aggressive peeks back over the fence, even to look back over and go, oh, there's 3 here, get some damage off, step back away. HRN was doing a great job on really huddling everything down, but that was action from near on beginning to end, and one of the reasons why we get thermal a lot, I do enjoy it.
Yeah, we're taking a look here at our last match on World's Edge as we jump into the highlights for game number 3. And a lot of aggression. I think this is what I talked about at the very beginning of the day, is how are people going to react, and what is it going to be that really catapults this game to that next level? Because for a lot of these teams that find themselves in those spots that are in the bottom 10, like 11 to 20th, they need to make it up somehow. And the only way you can really do that in the lobby, as you see a little bit of a peekaboo here from Millions, just picking up that one with the massive damage up top. Kills are going to be highly rewarded. It's something that a lot of these teams really need to put an emphasis on, because it makes up. I mean, Yeet Squad has been showing that throughout the first 2 matches already. I'm curious to see on how they were able to get out of that. No Bonzer was picked out on the backside of tree, so I'm curious to see if they're able to handle it. But I think the hardest thing about this entire push, this entire circle, is there was really nowhere where you could catch a breather. Constantly were people getting pushed out into different positions in dangerous spots, to where the one Unknown that actually had hard cover was the one that was able to survive and get the victory.
Well, whenever you're dealing with circles like this, specifically hard shifts away, one of the things that you have to go is, can we make it to the safe zone? And if not,
Right.
and you know that it's going to be problematic for you, that's whenever you go, okay, anything around us just has to die. Let's go on the hunt. Let's kill anything that's moving around us. Try to third party anything, because they know trying to move in, there's going to be too many rats. So just trying to get like points based off of clinging to the side is going to be too problematic. Instead, opt into what could be safer points, pick up those earlier kills, get 2 or 3 of those, and call it content off of that. So I think that's what we were saying a lot of these times, is people were like, there's no way I can make it off to thermal. So instead, let's just kill everything around us.
Yeah, it was a whole lot of chaos in that one. We got a little bit of rat cam, a poem along with it, and a bunch of action already here in our first 3 games. So again, we appreciate you guys coming and tuning in with us. But with that said, we're going to take a bit of a break here. When we come back, guys, GLL Master Summer Americas will be ready to go again, but this time it's going to be on Kings Canyon. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to GLL. I'm your host, Lawler. Matchroom joins us as well. It's the Masters Summer, and officially we're halfway through. We're excited for Kings Canyon, and hope you are too. Sit back and relax as we get ready to call the action. Solifide's on top. They've caught teams napping. HRN's right behind, with Superior in third. But don't sleep on Free Smoke. They've been pretty absurd.
I give it to you. Although I've now found that your writing prose follows, what is it, the night before Christmas.
Oh yeah. We just finished up July. I'm vibing, you know.
Hey, we're halfway there, right? The way 2020 is going, everybody right now is just like,
I'm just hoping for something
Christmas,
man.
please Christmas, please be good. All right, guys, I know you survived through the break. You did it, but now it's time to go ahead and start getting everything ready for the last half of the day. And I think that we've got a full-on leaderboard from that last round to look at.
Yep, gonna take a look at the scoreboard here, everybody, as we get into the action. As we mentioned, we're halfway through, so World's Edge is done for the day, and this is the results of our most recent match in game number 3. Unknown, the team that had that house was able to lock it down, but again, HRN makes up for it. They were the ones on the cliff side, and were able to get some kills, so only 1 point behind. Well done by them. Rounding out then is New Brainers, Max Dog, Solifide, TPH, Free Smoke, Millions, Team Superior, and Ziploc Bags. So a lot of action that went down towards the tail end there. A lot of these teams in that rotation just trying to find somewhere they could call home and have some hard cover. So easier said than done. But we're going to take a look at the overall leaderboard to kind of show you guys where everybody is at right now.
All right, Solopedia up at the top, but only 1 point back behind them right now is going to be HRN. Superior is going to be back behind that one. Then Free Smoke, Max Dog, New Brainer is going to be tied up together with Max Dog and Unknown as well. Just a couple of points back behind that's going to be Ziploc Bags, TPH 2 points behind. Then a little bit of a gap back down towards Capital, but you can see only 5 points back behind them is going to be Wraith One Tricks, Yeet Squad, and Millions Gaming. It looks like we're still going to have a contest for those top 10 teams.
Yeah, it's really close in that middle of the pack. But again, you're starting to see a lot of these guys towards the top really starting to create that separation. Primarily Solifide with double the points of kind of our 7th, 6th place area. So really well done by them. But again, Kings Canyon is a different beast. There's a lot of teams that really wake up and come alive on this other end because it is a little bit more intimate, a little bit smaller of a map. Early rotations being beneficial, very much so, as well as a little bit more action, which I will say, surprisingly enough, World's Edge, a lot of action for us here in our 5th week.
Well, one thing to note whenever we're talking about kills and the way that they stack up. Sure, right now, Solifide just off of kills would be inside the top 10. But you heard us talking about like maybe taking a couple of fights in the early games if you know you can't catch circles and stuff like that, because you can see it's only 14 points right now as the dividing line. Naturally, it's going to continue to escalate up as we go through everything. But with the halfway point being in place right now, you can see it's not unreachable for any of these teams. 1 or 2 big games, and even BKB could find some way to do, well, actually BKB's not playing, but Anime Girls, ooh, Big PP Bandits, your time is still before you. You have chances. You just have to try to capitalize on Kings Canyon.
Yeah, it just goes to show, I mean, all it takes is 1 match and you can really jump up. I mean, you're talking even for someone like Bandits who has 3 points. I mean, an 8-game match, 10-game match is definitely capable. So again, it's more so a matter of trying to balance that and have a big performance, as well as making sure that the teams that you are trying to replace also get knocked down. I mean, the hardest part is getting some of these top 10 teams or even these top 5 teams to not be in those spots, because they've shown consistently that they will be the ones that are there to fight you. So again, a lot on the line here as we're trying to find our top 10. So they join the guys at the grand finals on August 1st. But before we do that, we've got, as we've mentioned, 3 more matches to go, all in Kings Canyon. And out of curiosity, this is from previous weeks that I've seen, has been Solafide's bread and butter. They're already on top, and they enjoy Kings Canyon performance even more.
Yeah, whenever you're a team that's fragging as heavy, such as HRN, Solafide, Team Superior, Max Dog, New Brainers, whenever you move back over towards Kings Canyon, there's a lot more opportunities, specifically in these early game rotations, to really pick up a couple of kills, harass teams as they're trying to make it towards the safe zone. Don't be surprised if we see some gatekeeping happening very early inside of Kings Canyon.
Well, looks like fan favorite, and unfortunately, I just got an update from production. It looks like Anime Girls Uwu is going to count their losses and are going to step out, just like BK.
This is the worst timeline. The 2020, why do you keep doing this to me?
Why must you betray us like this? You know, I understand that you had a 19th, a 19th, and a 14th, but like,
it's all part of their theme.
It was trending in the right direction. The comeback was
look,
there.
now they are officially one of the great anime betrayals since they have left us.
It hurts. It hurts, man.
I
don't know if I can ever trust them again. You know, they were there since the beginning. I became fond of them, and they let me down.
Big PP Bandits, my hopes now rest on you. While you're in 18th place right now, the opportunity is still bound in front of you, as well as Wraith One Tricks and Yeet Squad. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen a lot coming out from them today, as we've seen them be a little bit more aggressive on earlier games. Maybe it'll change a little bit on Kings Canyon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that ends up playing out. And just to kind of keep you guys up to date, obviously we had an extended break, just trying to make sure after any time we have a bigger bit of a break, the players trying to round them up and get them back into the lobby is always a pain. So we're remaking the lobby, making sure everything's all solidified and ready to go, and then we'll get into the action. But in the meantime, you got to listen to myself and Matchroom talk your ear off, which I know you guys are just oh so keen about for whatever reason. So we're going to keep doing that and kind of position a question over to Matchroom, because I want to pick his brain more so about specifically Kings Canyon. Obviously, with the adjustments to the map that happened quite a few patches ago, and the way that these teams have played, do you feel we are going to get some of these aggressive comps? We've already seen it in World's Edge with a couple more cryptos than we're used to. Is that going to continue, or is it going to be more of an emphasis? What do you think?
Well, Crypto is kind of weird because he's not necessarily inherently aggressive himself. Mm-hmm. If you play with a very defensive-based team, he's just he gives you information to allow you to know how to move forward. We haven't been seeing the Revenant Crypto that we did see over the last couple of weeks, specifically whenever we were looking at ALGS and different things like that. Now, the thing that comes back into it is whenever you're playing for your lifeblood to stay inside the tournament, sometimes safety is what a lot of teams look to. If you're somebody like Solafide, if you're Team Superior, if you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, leaning into that aggression could be a key towards your victory and just continuing to stay at the top. If you're a team that's struggling, sometimes it's time to change. Now, the question comes into play, is it going to be a change if you switch over and you're starting to run different legends as you're trying to make the approach? Or is it just something that's going on inside of the meta styling? If your gunfights are the problem and you can't seem to survive, well, Revenant can provide a good option for that. Crypto can give you the information to let you know how to take that fight. But if it's maneuvering through and trying to make it inside the circles is your problem, sticking to something that's a little bit safer, got a little bit more meat on their bones to make sure that the rest of your squad can make it into that safe zone, could still remain being the key factor.
I just see how it plays out, and I'm looking forward to it. But if I had to make my pick, I think we're going to see the tried and trues. I think we're going to get the Wraiths, the Gibraltars, the ones that everybody knows. Obviously, you can throw Watson in there as much as you want. I just don't foresee anybody going the really aggressive Revenant and Crypto push. I just can't see it. We did get a little bit of it this morning. So in EMEA, we did get just a little bit of a touch of it, but I didn't see the results that went along with it. So maybe whether it deters them or not, I don't know. So I hope we get it. I hope we get some aggression. I think World's Edge definitely lived up to the hype. It was absolutely fantastic to watch those play out, we did get to see a lot of fights early on. But that could also just be the fact that some of these teams are landing on the same spots because they haven't really combined these lobbies yet, or aren't too similar, or are too similar, I should say, because Yeet Squad was under pressure almost every single drop. So we'll see what happens here in Kings Canyon.
Well, one of the things for the viewers to keep an eye on is a lot of times we have like the big names that come in and are extremely dominant whenever we look through everything. With the function and how this is all set up for this tournament, it's great to get a chance to really look at some of the up-and-coming teams, people that are trying to put rosters together, new superstars that are going to potentially be able to rise out of this. So it's a really good opportunity for, if you really like watching Apex as an esport, for you to eye in, beat in on some of these new people that are trying to make their way inside the scene, but just haven't quite found like their dominant position that, let's say, TSM, complexity, and all that other stuff. Sure, we still have Superior and Solifide that's making their life difficult, but you can still see flashes of brilliance from a lot of these teams that are starting to figure out how to finagle their way through these circles, and whenever a couple of the top dogs are out, how to win these firefights.
Yeah, I think initially for some of these more solidified teams like the Solifides, the Superiors, etc., they do have a dedicated drop that they like to go to, and you may get an ego challenge in early rounds where a team drops and then they realize what they're on the receiving end of, and then they back off moving forward. But initially, I think anytime you have a new drop with a new lobby of or a new assortment of teams, you're going to get a little bit of that, whether it's intentional or not. And that could also be a way to kind of slowly back into it. You take the guys that have been winning every single time and you decide, you know what? Let's hope that the loot is on our side and we can try to play that aggressive push early. We can carry that through for the rest of the game now that they're not a factor.
Well, there's also the flip side of it as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Whenever we look at how close it is right now, I mean, it's considered bad manners to drop on somebody that's low inside the leaderboards. That's why we don't see it a lot. But with every single point being highly valuable inside of this tournament to move up inside the top 10, we might see a couple of these people towards the middle of the pack, or let's say somebody that's in 10th, maybe make a drop back over towards somebody if they know the positioning and it's kind of close based off of the plane path coming through, that can drop down and maybe try to secure a couple of kills. It is extremely risky whenever you do that because you're trying to contest somebody that's in a better position on the leaderboard for you. So we don't see it a lot. But as we move into the later rounds, it might be feasible for a couple of these teams to maybe go for a Hail Mary pass and say, this is the only shot that we've got, so let's see if we can maybe get something out of it.
Well, speaking of the leaderboards, I'm kind of taking a look at those to see how things are playing out. And the ones that I'm paying attention to most is that 5th place spot. I mean, you're talking right now, top 3 in the podium is Solifide, HRN, and Team Superior. And there's a decent amount of point difference between them. But as soon as you drop down to 4 and 5, MaxDog specifically has 23 points, and alongside them is also tied New Brainers and Unknown, and then Ziplock's closely behind them. We then have a little bit of a difference between 9th and 10th, and specifically 10th. That spot, I think, is going to be highly contested by Wraith One Tricks, Yeet Squad, Millions who have been looking pretty solid. Motion, like that spot, I think a lot of people are gunning for, and I think it's going to come down to the very last game.
Really, it's going to be about stringing kills together if you're struggling during the mid game, maybe trying to find something in the early game to pick up a couple of points here or there, because you can see, while we look at this, one squad wipe from Wraith Tricks in the early game will put them at 12 points, just 2 points back behind Capital. So you can keep finding these little small advantages. You don't always need to make it to the end game whenever you're looking at a tournament structure such as this. Really just making it into the top 10 is the key factor. So whenever you're looking at what your win conditions per team are, don't be surprised if we see a couple of these guys like you're mentioning, Wraith One Tricks, Yeet Squad, Millions, Motion Team, Friendly Gamers, all these guys might be on the hunt for very early kills. And if they hear fights that are happening next to them, might opt into third partying much earlier instead of leaning into safety.
So I guess my approach then to you, is it better to take the more passive route and then hope for the kills late game? Because, I mean, it's inevitable that if you play rotations well and you kind of sit there, kills should be kind of handed to you as long as you land your shots and you're in position well towards the end game. Like, you will catch third parties, realistically speaking. Or is it better to just do that earlier on and get those while you can? Because then it gives you more loot moving forward, you know, if things go optimally, obviously.
Well, a big part of that is monitoring the kill feed. One of the things that we don't get a chance to talk about as far as this goes is IGLs are notable whenever they can track how many people are still alive in most teams, and are constantly keeping an updated mental journal and saying, oh, Superior's already lost 2, but we can hear a firefight going on with them. And that's got to be the point, so that way they can make the push back over to the side, try to get the kill for it. So really it's about just trying to make sure that the teams around you are ones that you want to try to aggress towards. Well, last round winners Unknown dropping way back over here in this position. Should have plenty of safe zones, as I don't think that we saw anybody that was dropping in their general vicinity right now. So Matt Pickett, Phony Head, and Crummy should have themselves a nice little bit of time to go ahead and get their loot together.
Again, we appreciate you guys being here and being patient with us as we got all the players into lobby as we start game number 4 and match number 4 here of week 5, our last chance week, where we're trying to find our last 10 teams that are going to join us for the grand finals in just a few short days. Keep in mind, though, Matchroom, obviously we don't have the double points this time around. There's a shot already coming down with Unknown here But as it was reminded to me by production earlier today, Na'Vi was able to jump from 17th to 7th in just one game. So again, people need to be careful. It can take a big swing. All it takes is one good performance.
I'm sorry, chat. I'm a liar. Friendly gamers are right next to where we can see Unknown playing at. I didn't see them on the drop. Judge me. I deserve it. But Unknown got themselves a nice bead back over toward this, inflicting a lot of damage. Crummy does go down. There's a quick exchange. It's going to be Matt Pickett goes ahead and gets the drop onto him. Looking back over, trying to put in some work with that shotgun. Gonna go ahead and toast him up. Should be able to get the res back over towards Crummy as well. So now a little bit more breathing room finally established.
Oh, actually, that, but no, grenades are coming in. Yeah, there's another team. That fight went on for quite a while. So you saw Phony. He lands 2 great shots with that Eva. And unfortunately for Crummy, already down. He's going to be the one that's on the receiving end. So team is able to pick up some of the kills there, but the other 2 are just going to retreat. It's not worth sticking around. So over here in Slum Lakes on the southeast side of the map, going to be a little bit more difficult for these guys to try to hold off.
I didn't realize that we had 2 different teams that were dropping that close based off of it. So with Max,
I don't know if one of them dropped like super close, but with all that noise that was going on, I think a lot of these teams realized like we need some points, and they just pushed in.
I think it was a repulsor reposition based off of hearing the firefight early, so just trying to get something out of it. So with this, you can see where the new circle, or the first circle, is going to be popping at. So pretty centered up. While we've been seeing a lot of hard shifts away, and for the first couple of circles, this time a little bit friendlier, and especially whenever we're looking back on this, should have a little bit of space to work with. So Pathfinders coming in, doing their due diligence to give us a little bit more information. Should be noted, though, it is choke point central with what we're going to be looking at towards the second circle. With as much dead zone as you can see that's going to be taken up by those cliff facing, that means a lot of these teams could opt towards center and just be clinging to cliff faces, trying to spot out teams, going for different shots and different people that are trying to encroach on these different points.
Yeah, it's a really rough circle and a lot of cliff face to work with as well, as you mentioned. So in those choke points, getting that high ground and being able to utilize the Watsons that we know a lot of these team comps are going to be rocking. As we see already with Ziploc bags, he put a couple shots down across. As it is motion team on returning fire. Obviously a team that has been kind of in that middle of the pack towards the tail end of our top end. They are in 13th currently. Trying to make some improvement there. Obviously, top 10 is the ones that matter the most here today. And it looks like they're going to try to hold down the fort here, just on the outside of the circle in the northeast.
So, nice bit of control inside of this. You can see good vision. That's one everybody that has ever played Apex is familiar with this position. But starting to stretch back out, seeing if maybe they can find a little bit more of what's going on around them. Given the nature of how these circles are going to stack, we can see people making the approach back over towards the east, and that's why you can see their reposition coming back over. See, maybe they might be able to find a couple of teams that can approach back over. It looks like also just trying to pick up a little bit more loot, not totally content with where they're at right now. Ziploc bags, though, finds themselves in a very comfortable position here, looking back over, trying to spot out people as they leave out the bunker, but not a lot of good options for cover as you make that little bit of a stretch back outside of that, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see them immediately run back inside a bunker pass.
Yeah, it is Team Superior, obviously another team that finds themselves in the top 3 right now. About 12 points behind second place. In a pretty comfortable area, but would like to improve upon that. The other issue for Gobble, who is inside for Ziploc, trying to get some damage down so he could level up that Evo shield. Wasn't able to land too much, so fortunate for him and probably a good place here to kind of make their mark. Obviously, they do have the Pathfinder passive in place, so they know where this next circle is going to push, and at this point, they could probably just hold down here and watch their flank to make sure that nobody comes from behind them, and then make a late rotation if they so choose, or they can try to play it early, but with that Watson ultimate down, I think they're just trying to conserve on their utility.
Imagine playing bunker and not having a caustic with you. How are you ever going to make it onto Reddit without that? For shame, Superior.
Man. How are you going to live it down?
I know. If you're going to play bunker, you got to bring the caustic. That's like one of the staple rules of Apex, isn't it? If you're going to drop near bunker, it's just got to be a thing. Well, looks like Capital's decided they got a little bit of friends. Yeah, 100%.
It's part of his kit, being toxic, you know? Like, gatekeep out in bunker. I mean, there's nowhere to run. It's great.
Well, it looks like Capital has gone ahead and taken over a position we were watching just a second ago. So, going to be looking back over towards the hillside. Again, lots of vision to work with based off of this positioning, trying to make sure that they can get a little bit of control. Looks like Wraith One Trick spots out something fun off in the distance. Going to set up a little bit of a defense on here. Don't want to get too aggressive just quite yet. Remember, this is one of our cusp teams that are vying for that top 10 spot. Capital is looking back over, doing a little bit more damage, but none of these teams in an inherent rush just quite yet. We're still pretty early on. 15 squads still alive at this point. Remember that we are immediately down 2, so that's why it looks a little bit wonky given the amount of action we've seen so far.
Gamble just doing whatever they can to try to take a couple different shots from area, and great placement with that wingman from Rand's, able to pick up some with the wingman, also having that skull piercer. So jump over to New Brainers. Spawn up top here on top of the building. They do see that Wraith coming across as well, needing to be careful.
Patience is a virtue right now. Just kind of eyeing what's going on next to them. I don't know if that's what's exactly going on with the position that we see coming in, but they're being hesitant with it, and they don't want to take too much damage off of this. So playing it pretty safe. You can see the team's back over towards their west. Really, everything is based around where Pathfinder has revealed the next new circle is going to be at. Everybody's just kind of already posted in, except for our boys down in water treatment. Going to be the last team to make their approach in. HRN looks like they're getting a little bit of a grasp on, so try to be a little bit more cautious. Throwables coming out. Nice defensive line coming out from HRN. Got to be a little bit cautious with it. It's going to be more that's trying to hold the line up for his team, but looks like he's managing to get away from it. Not a lot of vision to work with right now, so HRN's got to be very cautious off of this one. You can see that Simply is just trying to hold down defensive point.
Yeah, just trying to do whatever they can, even with that bubble coming down a little bit too early. Could be an opportunity, but this is the aggression that we've been seeing from some of these teams where they're just not being hesitant whatsoever, as HRN just on the backside. So he's simply trying to utilize that Mastiff, but he ends up losing the trade. Luckily, he's got a teammate nearby and gonna force this Wraith to end up running away, but trying to get him on the back end. 36 damage down, gonna be extremely lit up. They can just close it out, and great job by Moore here. He'll take out another one for Millions.
Yeah, it made it a little bit nerve-wracking there for just a second, so the last member of Millions is going to have to retreat from this position. Their way back over towards the edge of the safe zone. Going to go ahead potentially make some use of the rat cam. There we go. I knew it was coming. Already set up. I always wonder about, like, what type of health insurance do Apex Legends people have for their knees? With as much as they slide, that's just got to do a ton of damage to them.
Do you think that something applies to baseball teams? I actually don't know.
I don't know either, but... well, one thing I do know is it looks like our last solo has been spotted out and going to go ahead and get taken down. Meanwhile, TPH finding themselves in the thick of it right now. Going to go ahead, take out, look like a little bit of a flush back over towards the Waston, buy a little bit more space. So TPH looks like they've got control over this location. I don't necessarily know where the team that they were aggressing on and the remnants to it are at, but looks like they're definitely no longer in the area and have very quickly taken.
Yeah, really good fight, and it looked like it was an aggressive push too. Just not been afraid to send it in there and just pick stuff up because they know the longer this sustains, especially in a map like Kings Canyon. Kind of the big difference between this and World's Edge is because the map is a little bit smaller. You know, those shots and those fights, the longer they continue, you're just drawing a lot of attention. Luckily for a lot of these teams, though, they're already in the circle waiting, so not like you're going to have to worry about somebody coming from the flank. As you can see, that team still on the south side has made their way out from water treatment, just chilling in the market, taking their time. And at this point, probably going to be happy with some placement points until they have to run into a team that might be caping them out. I mean, a couple big names still available in here. HRN, obviously, the big thing for HRN, though, only one player left available. You're seeing New Brainers, Solifide, Superior, so a lot of really big names, rosters that are towards the top still there. But Wraith One Trick's the one that was able to pick up that straggler on the back end here, able to find another team. So try to put some damage down, see if they can clean it up.
Try to get every single kill right now that you can. If your Wraith One Trick's going to go ahead and spot that one out, pick up another one. At least 2 kills right now, as it's going to be team that manages to pick up both. Don't know how we're sitting on the rest of the players just quite yet, but this is exactly what you want to do. If you're on the hunt, try to make it inside those top 10. Be aggressive on the teams around you. Don't let anything relent in the face of adversity right now. Just continue to apply pressure on everything that is happening around you.
Little lonely walk.
I was waiting. I thought you might have another poem set and ready to go there.
I was thinking, I'm like, can I freestyle this? And I'm like, nah, that sounds stupid. It's not worth it.
Well, that's going to be my case. Don't worry, I will publicly embarrass myself by trying to do some type of freestyle poem.
Hey man, I feel like you get a free pass after that like impression of like anime character last week. It was too good. I feel like you get a free pass.
Well, I'm going to need it because it's going to be horrible. All right.
Can't wait.
So if you're the team down in market, there is no rush. You know the fact that you're going to be the last team at this point. Everybody else is already hunkered down. Just really extending out to get a little bit of information. No due center up in the map. With the amount of choke points that we see, whenever we see the next circle pop, that means that a couple of these teams are going to have a little bit of interference to run. With the way that everything's set up, unless it just drops due center yet again, It means that these teams are going to find themselves in a little bit of a troubled position. All these different choke points, like we're seeing right now, are just going to be laden with death traps, just waiting for a team to encroach on it. New Brainer still just trying to inflict whatever damage they can on anybody that approaches into any corridor.
It's exactly what you talked about, though, with that middle of that circle. With that canyon and kind of all these choke points, you got to be careful, but free smoke in the middle of a fight here, having high ground doesn't even matter. TPH does a fantastic job with this push coming from multiple angles and just putting a ton of damage down, but unfortunately can't land that last hit, so a bunch of different attack points coming in through here. Gonna have to back off and see if they can heal up again as they push across and are able to clean up, but still another team, multiple players in the area. TPH just trying to back out, don't want to get taken down as he's gonna have to turn and take the fight. Probably should have done that in the first place, but so persistent.
Yeah, this is a problem for a lot of these teams. We talked about early aggression being a key factor for them. Just narrowly, TPH manages to get one of their members out and away. Luckily, he does have an Evo shield. So with that early game fight, definitely stacked a lot of damage back over towards it, but it's going to be lifted now and starting to get control over the area. You can see the new circle has popped just back over towards the east of this position. So a couple of our teams are going to have to move. Specifically, it's going to be our western teams that we're looking at right now. They're going to have a little bit of troubles ahead of them. The fortunate part of this is with as violent as the early game sections of this has been, it's opened up different points that some of these teams can move in. Places that they thought are already going to be claimed, already going to have teams that are hunkered down and are actually going to be open. Look back over towards the northwest right now. That is a wide open category that any team can really just walk in and claim for free right now.
Yeah, something that team at the very north could possibly do. You know, if they decide to make this push down into this area, or those teams already waiting, they may just be able to retreat and go back around. Yeah, they take some orange damage, but from the zone, but have the capabilities to utilize a Wraith Portal or something else to rotate back through. So a lot of things to consider, but the big one that we talked about at the very beginning, the one that you mentioned, is a lot of these guys having to push through these areas. Big choke points and easily set up. You can see how important the Caustic has been now that he doesn't slow his teammates as well. So he'll just kind of set up shop and as well as create some, I guess, diversion and obscure vision as well. Especially with these teams that have a bunch of thermal scopes, being able to look right through makes it a really one-sided affair as we've got a rat in a cage.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what I can do. Oh, no, good. They switched away from it. See, now we want to watch this fight instead. So that's what we're going to do. No, fighting. Fighting is more important. Yeah, see, you know, that's really what's up. Why you continue to bait me? Oh, sad, sad rat. Where art thou? Hiding here trying to get as many points as one can allow. No more shooting shall you do, else you draw the attention that will bring your near doom. Oh, Rat Cam, you fill my heart with joy. You find so many solo players just trying to be coy, alive for now and filled with dread, because let's be honest, we all know they soon will be dead. How's that? Pretty okay? Just off the cuff? I don't know why I started off with, like, shall and thou, and then switched into be like, whatever at the end of it.
It was like old-timey English, and then you went like super dark, and I'm like, I dig it. I dig it.
Everybody else is doing these cheerful ones. I'm like, they're all gonna die. All right. Speaking of somebody dying, we've got new brainers that are still holding out Solo Fide just back down towards the south. Solo Fide wants to make this approach, but there are so many different little angles, so many different points that are very hard to make the approach from. So that's why they're going to go ahead and set this one up. Tries to go back around behind it, gets a little bit of damage, narrowly makes it back away from this one. New brainers now have to be careful. At any given point, somebody can pop up in that portal back behind him, and it's going to draw attention. And that's what you want to do whenever you're trying to make a push through these choke points. You want to make it to where the defenders have too many options, too many things that they're having to try to pay attention to. Solo Fide trying to cut that path, doesn't get a lot out of it just quite yet, though, as they're still just clinging to life, and instead said, maybe it's not worth instead reposition back around over towards the west and just let new brainers have that one.
I think new brainers recognize that as well. As initially they start to push forward and then they're like, you know what? Let's just commit. At the same time, if they want to make that fight easier, they do make themselves a little bit more susceptible to the opening. But if they back up and then just make sure that that portal stays in their vision, they are giving up a little bit of positioning. But at the same time, it's one of those things they got to worry about. It's always kind of a give and take of a chess match here between some of these teams. But big rotations from both sides. Ziploc Bag's able to get kind of down here and inside the circle as well, but difficulty here is there's a team that's been watching the whole time. As you can see the shots coming out, they're gonna have to force their way through it, and it's gonna be kind of tough to avoid some of these teams that are on the other side waiting. This is where it gets difficult. This is where the in-game leader comes in handy. Just being able to take and assess this information as quickly as possible and make the right call, because it could be the doom otherwise.
Well, you've had one gate-kept choke point, but have you had a second gate-kept choke point right now? As Circle is going to make its way back towards the north, and a lot of these teams that were playing back over towards center, holding down inside of all those choke points, now going to have to move and could find themselves on the receiving end of all of this violence and everybody just waiting patiently. Yeet Squad's got themselves a good position to play from right now, but most of the teams are going to be thundering up towards that point. Yeet Squad has nice control, nice vision, but the problem is with 10 teams alive, a lot of them could be eyeing back over here, and that's why you see Yeet Squad trying their hardest to make sure that they're keeping vision on all the things that could be approached.
Yeah, Yeet Squad, the best part about them too is having this compound is there's a lot of places that they can work with, and it's still on the high ground for the most part. Unless someone's going to stay up top there, they do have the ability to kind of work and peek from multiple different angles. Again, if they get overwhelmed and there's too much for them to cover, it could be a problem. But as of right now, other than the only one door being open is a pretty good spot as we jump over back to Solo Fide, trying to fight their way into this circle. Depending on which way they want to rotate, they do have a couple different options. Just a matter of making a decisive pick here as shots coming from multiple angles, and the fact that the Sonar coming out spots them could be a dangerous spot for Solo Fides. They do have the high ground shots coming down, trying to get the Gibraltar. Gonna commit to it, and using that Eva actually puts a ton of damage out. But Pride just gonna try to bob and weave, get back up top, see if he can have this high ground and a way to hide. As Easy Katka, the one on the low side, just non-stop action from both of these, just trying to finish off a team, and eventually one does drop, but now Ziploc begs on their beneficiary as they get another one dropped. And good job to them, but it doesn't even matter, just doesn't seem to be ending as they now have to fight their way into even more teams on the back end.
All right, well, everybody that was nice and comfortable in their choke points, you can see, just destroyed themselves as it was third party into fourth party into fifth party, and everybody just stacked up trying to leave that rock cropping. So now down to 7 teams. We've got the rat cams in full effect as the remnants from all the destruction trying to find somewhere that they can hide out.
There's so many now.
Oh,
and they all come from that choke point.
They're everywhere. It's just going to be a matter of who can just manage to hide the best and who might find the sneaky angle to work with. You can see that the circle is going to continue to make its way back over towards the north, so have to be careful of the danger zone. Wraith One Trick still sitting in a not the best of positions, but they have a lot of information that they can gather from up here. Question comes into play, can they get some work out of it? Nobody really inside the new safe zone just quite yet, as one of our remnants has no real path to even make it in the safe zone. Look at that guy back over towards the east, as different bush Wookiees and cliffhangers are all coming up from everywhere on this map.
All right, let's see if I can do a high Q off the top of my head. Why am I like this? Hiding even though I may die soon. This is the heckin' worst. Nailed it.
I like it. Works out. Oh, and there we go. We're going to start seeing solos drop off all over the place as they're starting to get spotted out by our stronger squad, still rolling multiple members. It's one of those interesting situations where really just having 2 people actually put you in a pretty strong position right now, as often whenever you've already lost one at this stage, you're just trying to play it passive. 11 people alive with 6 squads. Let you know, though, a lot of these teams are damaged down to just one last person left. So now let's see how these teams try to make the play. Wraith One Tricks on that cusp position, trying to have themselves a good game to make it up inside the top 10. Does spot out a little bit more, trying to inflict the damage that they can off to the side, but it's just going to continue to be jumping down the hillside. Got to be careful, though. They don't want to overextend their aggression and get caught out from the sides. That would be near on death for them. Superior still sitting on 3 right now, in a good position right now, just holding a beautiful angle on everybody that's trying to make their way down this hillside.
Yeet Squad on the top. This was another team that was on the inside. It actually gets caught on the tail end of that, so Nice going to take a bunch of damage. Also from the zone, needs to be careful. Superior able to come out alive, just waiting for this bubble to go down, and then they're just going to unleash havoc. So many shots coming in. Long range, massive, anything they can throw at this team. Trying to secure those kills as they're going to wrap back on the other side. Don't want to tunnel vision too much. And you can see Joey doing a fantastic job of that, going all the way back here. You also have Twitch Hollow just sitting and waiting for the opportunity. Has that bubble out ready to go as Thermite galore, just trying to find somebody on the top end of this. Just can't land any of those shots, so he's going to get aggressive. Needs to be careful on the backside. Another player on the other, trading left and right. Joey just trying to go wherever he can, and at this point, just going to take whatever shields he can find as this last fight is about to go underway. There's only 2 squads left. This Gibraltar, the last one available, trying to fend off, and it's not even going to matter. Team Superior has the superior coverage and is able to get the victory.
All right, Team Superior, we're all here bearing witness to the glory. That is 2 rounds popped off for you, and I think a pretty decent amount of kills inside of that one. Hard to say as we got caught up in the action around the hillsides, and they were off on a different point. It feels like everybody just decided, hey, we're going to hold this choke point, and then decided to move. The circle shifted away, and then it all moved at the exact same time. And that's one of the things that you can take away from this, guys. If you're finding yourself in a gatekeeping position, sometimes you can say, there might be a few too many teams off at this point. Maybe we should go ahead and move in early instead of just getting caught up with 6 different teams trying to rotate.
Yeah, it was a really good start here from Unknown. A lot of players landed in that same spot, and unfortunately, that third party ended up coming in and removing a lot of their players. So good start after the EVA 8 shots, but from there, they were kind of facing an uphill battle. And a lot of kind of individual skirmishes with a lot of rats that were kind of just left out and picked off by a bunch of these teams rotating through. But at the very end, credit to Superior, you know, a lot of people wanted to take that hillside and kind of get that hard cover in those buildings. And I think that very end circle shift is one of my favorites. It's open field. It comes down to just pure gunplay and how you guys are going to make the decision to be aggressive. And at that point, you know, Superior does have a little bit of cover on the low side to catch some of these teams on the back end and are able to clean up. I mean, you can see the individual fights and how many times these attacks were really overlapped. And then that's what I'm talking about. Superior picks up the team on the right. They catch Gibraltar ult. And 1v3, not a whole lot they can do. So again, Superior living up to their name, doing very well on the back end there, and should essentially jump up probably a spot with that result.
Big question comes into play is our cusp teams that are fighting for 10th. How many kills did they walk away from? We saw them getting a lot of kills early, but did they have to retreat away just to try to find some type of survival, or did they keep it consistent all the way through? Whenever we see this leaderboard after the break, I cannot wait because I'm willing to bet. Finally, we've seen it shaken up just a little bit as we might see a couple of these teams start being able to buy a little bit more aggressively for those positions.
Hey man, you say that, and again, we still got a plenty of teams that are performing quite well. Solafide, again, one of those in the top 5, I assume, so it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But with that said, guys, that is our first match, Kings Canyon. We got 2 more to go, but before we do that, we're going to go to a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters America's Edition. We just finished up with game number 4 of the day, but we're here on week 5. It's last chance week where these teams are trying to fight into the top 10 of the 11 through 30 place teams, which is kind of confusing. But we're going to take a look at the scores here from what just went down. And Team Superior having a fun 1v3 at the end there to clean it up.
10 kills popping off for them. Should be noted, their Wraith One Tricks talked about the fact that they needed a big game. 8 kills, going to go ahead and walk away with 13, all things considered. TPH walking away with 14 as well. And second, Ziploc Bags, Millions Gaming, Yeet Squad lifted all these teams that were needing points. Look at this. Easy Cat, Matt's Dog. It's going to be Solo Fide that's at the bottom of our top 10 for that round. Unknown HRN as well. You can see once they got dropped off, it really allowed a lot of these other teams to step in and make some points. Now the overall leaderboard, I think, is going to be spicy. What are we looking at? Wraith One Tricks finally pulling into the top 10, 22 points, but Million Gaming, Yeet Squad, and Capital Esports all tied right back behind them.
Yeah, it's the exciting thing about it is because so many of these high-level teams kind of have to take a step back, it provides that opportunity for some of these other teams to take a big jump. And we talked about it at the beginning of that last game is, you know, you've seen teams like Navi jump from, you know, 17th to 7th just like that at the very last moment. So again, all it takes is one, and you can see exactly why here. So really well done as we're going to be jumping into match number 5 of the day, our second on Kings Canyon. And of course, we're jumping on with Team Superior, the team that ended up taking the victory of our last game. So again, this was a team that I talked about at the beginning of the day where, you know, going at the end of week 3, week 4, they were a team that found themselves in the top 5 spots. And when they dropped down to Bravo for 1 week, they really piled on the points and were able to kind of claw back. So again, I think this is a team that a lot of people, you really don't want to sleep on. I think they've been playing extremely well. You even have Joey and some of the guys hopping into chat and talking about something that we didn't get to see until the replays on the tail end, where he had like a super insane arc star to clutch it up. So again, a lot of fun that these guys are having, and trying to see if we notice it too, because at the end of the day, it's all about the highlight plays, right?
Oh, well, circle's going to pop just a little bit back down south of Artillery. Second circle going to be in that similar location. So notice it's pretty wide out in the open. While there is a hillside that can be played there, going to mean the fact that we're not going to see the same choke points come into play, but there is that death spot pretty close towards the center, back over towards the west. You can see where that marker is at, essentially. A lot of teams like to fight around that location, and a lot of teams could find themselves in a little bit of a problem, as that tends to be quite contested regularly. So with this being said, 2 rounds remain, and we're going to have potentially, well, we are going to have, well, 8 teams at this point. I was going to say 10, but 2 of them have already eliminated themselves. 8 teams now have to go, all right, what do I got left in the tank? What can I pull out for these last 2 rounds? As yes, I like it. Be stylish. Go ahead and jump through. Can you manage to make some type of big improvement to get a couple more kills, to get a decent position, so that way you can make it inside the top 10?
Yeah, this is where it's going to get really interesting as we come down to these last two matches. You're going to see probably some different approaches on how these guys want to play, whether it be aggressive or otherwise. So, unfortunately for TQ, he's doing everything in his power to make sure he breaks every door in this point, as he just wants to jump in and get some loot quick before they get aggressed on. Luckily, they should be relatively safe here down below as we jump over to New Brainers, a team that ended up dropping down just a bit after that last match. Applying some damage as a team trying to rotate early.
See if maybe they can get a little bit of damage out. Not going to go ahead and opt into the execution just quite yet. We've seen a lot of these teams that are in between, I would say probably about 7th through 15th, opt into trying to play aggressive because they know every single one of these points is very, very important this stage of the tournament. So now New Brainers have a lot of control on what's going on, but they don't want to overextend their reach just quite yet. You got to hit the damage out before you go and opt into the chase. Solafide, though, find themselves already one member down, and, well, it's a little bit of a bad thing for them to happen. Let's be honest, they're feeling pretty confident and comfortable given their positionings right now. They've got a pretty hefty lead to consider the fact that they're going to be in a decent spot, but New Brainers still on the chase.
Again, not something that you want to be relaxed on. Obviously, these guys are going to do their best to make sure that they continue that through the rest of the game. This New Brainers still chasing down this team, and good shots coming out from Mercy. Just trying to get the last couple hits here on this Wraith, who's just running every which way to get away. We'll get a couple heals off as well for Solafide. This could be a big pickup for them early on.
Solafide going out early with the amount of kills that they've been picking up would be huge for a lot of these teams that are in the struggle bus situation right now. So with that, Solafide is going to have a little bit more space to work with, and I like this New Brainers already like, okay, we've been chasing for a while. Let's not go too hefty into this before we find ourselves running into a firm another 3-man squad. So instead, play it a little bit patient. Going to be Motion Team finding themselves in a little bit of action. Going to roll right up into the thick of it. It's going to be Ziploc Bag still sitting on 3 right now. They've got firm defense line setups, so they're just going to go ahead and start throwing out their utility. Make sure that they're in a firm defensive point. While they do have their shields and everything else like that, they're not in the strongest points to work with it right now.
Yeah, Ziploc Bags kind of got gifted that one. They were just cleaning up a back end of another fight. Fortunately for the team, I think that portal was supposed to be coming down so they could try to retreat out, but it's just not going to work. They do spot another team on the other building straight across, just trying to put some damage down before they commit to anything. Again, the longer this fight sustains, got to be careful.
That's one of the inadvertent problems that happens whenever teams start going aggressive in the earlier games, or the earlier stages of the games. When you're trying to find kills, you're forcing these teams to run, and if you continue to chase like we saw just a second ago, these teams end up bumping into each other a lot earlier than a lot of people are expecting. So, it seems like Motion Team constantly on the move, trying to figure out what's going on around them. Capital trying to get a little bit more aggressive back over towards it. That's the reason why for this, is all of these guys are trying to make sure that they secure kills, but going down early is extremely problematic. So that's going to be a third shot coming out from the side of this, means that Capital now has to play this a little bit more cautiously. Moving back over into this, you can see that they have problems of bounding up in front. Tries to go for the spray back behind it. Instantly down. And then there is just one. Superior starting to be a little bit more aggressive on the outside of this one, looking around saying if maybe they can find a sneaky little approach.
Need to be careful, though. I mean, that was the difference maker, right? You have two teams already fighting each other, and Capital on the outside's like, all right, we're going to be the third party. Stuff's great. And all of a sudden, Team Superior gets involved. So it's just one after another the longer these fights go on, especially in a map like Kings Canyon. Just not safe at any point. Superior just kind of rolling their way through this one, looking pretty solid to take another victory, especially with Solafide out of their way. Already at a disadvantage. There was a team that was under pressure from the New Brainers just a bit ago, so pretty quick rotation on the back end here, just trying to make sure that they have multiple points of attack as they can just hear shots going down, just trying to close out one of these players. They do crack the shields and quite a bit of damage done. See if they're going to chase it down or not. At this point, just putting some pop shots from further back. Don't want to aggress too heavily, and we talked about that as well from New Brainers. You know, they put down all this aggression on Solafide, and eventually they realize, you know what, it's not worth it. Let him go. We're going to loop back up, kind of reposition, kind of recalculate, and then go back into it. As we jump over to Millions, a big fight coming out between them. And another roster. Just shots back and forth.
Millions finding themselves in a little bit of a difficult spot. Nicewig has already gone down on the other side of this. Looks like whenever we talk about Kings Canyon, we often talk about the fact that third parties can be a thing, but you should always be expecting the fourth party at any given time. Max Dog looks like they're also coming up and trying to be a little bit aggressive into this. You can see Brands does go down as well as the last remaining member coming up from Millions. Wraith One Trick still on the hunt, seeing the fact that they see somebody running off in the distance, trying to chase as fast as possible. They know this is the remnants of another team and another potential kill point, but they just can't quite connect with the shots, and they have to be careful. With all of this aggression, it looks like they finally managed to corner him out. Now one pushes in the front, the other one's going to go around the back of this one. down. Should be easy to capitalize off of this very quickly, just round through. But no, still the tricks coming out from the Wraith, trying to buy a little bit more time and spacing, and maybe can survive. But that is some big shots to finish it out.
It's a great punishment. And again, this is kind of dangerous at the same time. These guys are on the north side of Capacitor. There's so many teams in that open area that they've got to push into eventually that now know exactly where they are. You're looking at Bandits, a team that we have been able to talk to for a while. He's just waiting to see if they can clutch up a fight. Shots on the back end, unfortunately for second, is going to get dropped down. As they had the flank relatively well, but shots just weren't there. Fights coming out from Easy Katka, just trying to clutch something up. As the other team has the high ground, going to end up pushing into it with the Mastiff. See if they can get him on the backside. First shot lands, second shot misses, and is going to get dropped down. So for Bandits, this is a big fight and a big clutch, as it's only 8 seconds that gets dropped and should be revived.
This is big for both of those teams. Easy Katka going out there is going to be problematic. Now everything's going to be relying on their last game, and that's never the way you want it to be. It means that there's so much extra pressure. You double think everything as you're moving through. Now we're just going to have to see if these teams can mentally reset and say, okay, one more, we can still make it happen. All the action continues to make its way back over towards the west of Capacitor. Everybody's starting to get firmly committed. But back towards the southeast, you can see several of these teams are going to have to move here relatively soon when the new circle shows itself. Artillery team, pretty comfortable right now. Just going to have to make their way just on the outside of artillery, so shouldn't be too much to concern themselves with.
Yeah, curious on what happened with the Yeet squad in there. They were kind of sandwiched between multiple, I think it was both the South American squads in Capital, and I forget the other one that was with them as well. But I'm curious to see if they were able to make it out. I know they were in a really tough spot, so be interesting to see on how they played that one. I know they got one dropped relatively early, but tried to get out as well. So we've got a Lonely Watson running away, just trying to see if they can find a new place home. This is Solifide, where 2 players have been removed, just trying to get into the circle at this point and doing it in a way that they're not going to run into a bunch of different teams. So not afraid to take it out. We did see Lifted last game end up using the Revenant, but was the only one that was removed in the fight when we got to see it. So trying to utilize that pylon and get some information as well as put some damage down as they do spot a team
I like
out.
it. Bring in the aggressive plays. Lifted, running the Revenant right now, trying to put in some work with it. Has to be cautious. It's just a peek battle back down through that hallway. Still sitting on the right now. They still have the ultimate going up for Revenant, so they have to be a little bit cautious. Down on a different point from this, you can see Unknown. Just playing for safety right now. Whenever you opt into a position like this, you're losing almost all of your information, but you're gaining a firm turtle stance. Everybody has to come directly towards you, and it looks like twice now, it's already worked out in their favor.
You can just see the boxes on the floor for Unknown and able to pick up their loot, and it's working to their advantage and pretty healthy before they move into this zone. So just trying to take their time. We got a Crypto just trying to see if he can find some information and checking himself out, I guess. Vibing with that skin, I guess. I don't know. Not really
Sometimes
sure
you're
what.
Sexy and you know it. You know, you
yeah,
just gotta show it off and look around and say like, hey, you know, maybe he's trying to look at the UI and see if maybe it pops off inside of that one. I always get caught up in looking at the different aspects of it.
Hey man, do what you got to do.
All right, so position
for team
coming
name
up.
Motion, not doing a whole lot.
Well, they've got center of the circle, and they have a team right next to them. So I do agree, though. If you're going to name yourself Motion Team, you got to be on the go all the time. Also, one thing that never, ever gets tired is the little Watson wave. Like, she's just so happy every single time one of those fences gets connected properly. I need that type of happiness in my life. Just, could you imagine, like, you get yourself a cup of coffee, and then you're just so excited. You're like, yay!
At first, I think it'd be great, but then I get annoyed by it pretty quick. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe I'm just like not the person for it. Like, I'm just dead inside or something. But like, people that
Not
are
a morning
really
person, I
happy
can tell.
all the time, I'm just like, I couldn't do it. Especially in the morning. Yeah, definitely not in the morning. I'm not a morning person at all.
Lack of sleep and gamer rage is what fuels me. How I go through. Little do you know that this happy caster is just an act, and I take great enjoyment out of watching every single one of these teams die. No, not really, but
It's the least amount of action we've had all day, and I think it's just gearing us up. I mean, there's still 14 squads left here, and as I say that immediately, you can see the benefit of the caustic. Throws down a trap immediately right next to it. So even when that one goes away, there's still another one for a backup. So smart play here by Lifted, just kind of waiting it out. Fortunately, without the Wraith, going to put them in a really rough spot for rotational purposes and trying to get mobility out. So don't blame them for sitting put too much, even though we like to see the action.
this is a condition of what's going on. We're in the second to last game. Circle's getting very compacted now. You can see going to continue to make its way back over towards the northeast. Our teams back down towards the south are going to be the movers inside of this. So none of these teams are wanting to go out at this stage. With 14 teams alive, 39 people up and active, means the fact that it's been a couple of problems for a few of these teams trying to survive through. So the question now comes into play. Everybody knows that it's problematic. How do you try to make the most points that you can? Safety tends to be what your brain goes to first. Just find somewhere to hide at, try to hope that everybody else is going to fight, and then you can come into the late game strong. And that's kind of a symptom for what's going on right now. Everybody is afraid to make that first play, because once you go for those shots, you reveal yourself, and suddenly the third, fourth, and fifth parties all kick off, and you find yourself, while you were trying to be the aggressor, suddenly just on the full defensive, trying to retreat from all the shots that are coming after you. You can see Big PP Bandits were trying to be super patient with that one. Gets off a lot of damage, but it's going to be a quick reposition coming out from the other team, trying to make their way back down through there. So with this now, Big PP Bandits has themselves in a lot of control, and yes, I do like saying that one a lot, so that's why I'm making sure to say the full thing. Have high ground, vantage points for quite a while, but have to be careful, as a lot of teams could be looking back over towards them the more they go into this motion.
Yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity as well for Bandits. They had the positioning, and the other team didn't even know they were there, and that's kind of, I think, the biggest time to start using that utility. There was a player on their team that had 2 arc stars, so if they throw and initiate with that and it lands on anything, you know, immediately the slow comes, it breaks the shields. Obviously, they do have a Watson ultimate there as well, which kind of creates that difficulty, but again, trying to get that coordination, those are the ones that you really need to get a knock on. Unfortunately, they aren't able to, so that team's going to be able to back out and retreat as Gibraltar drops down here. It makes it pretty easy for new brainers to know where these teams are that they're trying to aggress to, and it looks like they've spotted one out, so a bunch of tracers they see to their northwest, and looks like they're going to go throw the thermite down, seeing if they get one. Unfortunately for Zera, that one's going to actually bounce off the ability up top. It's going to bounce towards him, so he gets hit with his own, takes a ton of damage for it. So what looked like could have been a great push, thwarted by himself.
Just trying to inflate those damage numbers, right? Just trying to show everybody how good you are, making sure that you can walk away, give you some stats.
Killing it, man. Killing it and himself at this point.
See, next level strategies coming out from this guy. TPH right over on the edge, gets themselves a comfortable choke point, nobody playing from. So most of our teams have managed to make their way through, but do note that team that's back over towards the southwest could be encroaching back over towards TPH and how they're trying to play this. Given the way that we see the position coming through, that's one of the few options that team has in front of them. So TPH needs to make sure that they are ready and waiting for any team coming up back behind them. As you can see, most of their attention focused back that direction.
Yeah, I think this is where Crypto really comes in handy, but unfortunately, during the middle of actually going for a scout, you see Prodigy and the rest of the guys come in, a big push. They're going to drop this Caustic. It just makes it so difficult for them to do it anywhere. Like, Hollow just doesn't even know where to go between the Gibraltar, the Caustic gas, and everything else. There's nothing he can do. They just get overwhelmed.
It's all about positioning coming up, and here's the third party coming into effect. Now you got to be a little bit more cautious. HRN still looking back and behind this one. New circles popped, and it's going to go back over towards the northeast. I love the throw going right up underneath of that. HRN in no inherent rush on this. Perfectly fine, inflicting the damage, jumping back down to the safety of their nice little sewer that they've got for themselves, and continuing to pop off and just rotate, trading out damage. One person steps up, gets off a lot of damage. The other one just instantly retreats back, gets their shields back up, comes back through. So it's a constant cycle coming out, as now you can see Lifted only has one member up and is now just huddled into the corner, praying that HRN decides to go a different direction.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious on how he's going to play this one. Obviously, he's not trying to peek or anything, because there's no way that he knows that there's only one person there that he could possibly win the trade on. So just trying to wait it out, and hopefully nobody comes to get that loot, and he's going to be able to kind of reap the benefits and then play for placement afterwards. So good patience from him, just holding that angle, making sure he's ready to go for the next fight. As a bunch breaking out in a lot of this open field in the forest. You need to be careful. As you can see already, people in the hard cover already Watsoned up and ready to go as shots just as they come across. Just Fuzzby, the rest of these guys being absolutely relentless, not allowing anybody really to breathe. So kind of look at the 12 squads remaining, the ones in good positions. I mean, it's the one as always, HRN, Superior, the rest of these guys. The only one that's kind of been having a hard time with it has been Superior, or not Superior, Solifide, I think, early on, because they got caught out. So pretty good bounce back for a lot of these teams that found themselves a little bit lower last game. At this point, It's going to be a hard rotation, I think, here for HRN.
Yeah, they're just going to wait until the last second for the circle to collapse in on them. Meanwhile, Free Smoke is still having to fight their way across the top of it. Got to be very careful. Already 2 down. Rambo, the last one up for his squad, tries to make the Valiant hold, but it's going to be New Brainer still continuing their reign of destruction on anybody trying to approach over towards the circle. They have to be careful, though, as the circle's now going to start moving, and they have the zone back behind them. It's going to have to start moving in just a second. I love the use of Caustic. Just go ahead and throw that out. Stall, buy a little bit more time. This is a very hefty squad whenever you're running Caustic and Gibraltar both. So you have a little bit more space to work with whenever you're taking damage on your approach. But New Brainers have to be super cautious on this. You can see every single tree, every single little dip, cubby, log leaning off the side, crate could have somebody back behind it. Acula's trying to make his way forward, but it's going to be the third parties coming into the side of it. Got to be super cautious. Big PP Bandit still just trying to hold them back, taking the shots right on the edge of the zone, raining in what damage they can. That's going to be the Gibraltar Shield coming out. Is it going to be enough to buy time for this team to reset? I don't know. Trying to at least get away from it, and it's just continued harassment as Big PP Bandits are just continuing to hold this hillside almost uncontested as they're just raining in more and more damage off to this team to the side of them.
Yeah, just a whole lot of things that they are doing so well, and a part of it is just being patient and waiting for this opportunity. So they did get a knock here on the back side, but that's a big grenade to kind of stop them from aggressing. And they recognize that there's no point on this one. We could get that kill, but it's just not worth it. So they're going to back up. Great job with that utility and those throwables, as you do see Unknown on the back end side here. Does spot one out. Takes a quick shot and is going to back off. Needs to heal too. So 5 squads remaining. All going to get pretty intimate here. We've got 50 seconds before the circle pushes in. And a lot at this point, you're going to see those team comms really come into capability. I do like the Caustic and the Gibraltar on the back end side. The ability to play really defensive, create some LOS, especially in a big open area like this. But it's going to be a difficult fight.
Yeah, it's all going to be about cover and how well these teams can try to make a play based off of it. HRN still clinging to life right on the edge of the zone, has to be cautious, now getting harassed from multiple angles. Looks like they might have found themselves a little bit of a path to work with. Wraith One Trick's pretty close towards the zone right now, but in no rush to make their way back over towards the safe zone. They've got lines on a lot of the teams next to them and want to inflict as much damage as you can. Even if you can't get the down, if you can inflict enough to break the shields, maybe the third party is going to come into play. Sure, you don't get the kill for yourself, but that's another threat that has been dropped off the table, especially when you're looking at the circle set up the way that it is. Wraith One Trick still continuing to harass the teams that are after them. Knows that somebody's trying to approach right up back behind them, continuing to rain in damage. Wraith One Trick's going to go ahead and get a good read on the portal coming through. Throwables now starting to come back out their direction, having to start to retreat away from this one. They are continuing to be right along the edge of this, but that's drawing a lot of the aggression from the other teams back their way. Going to go ahead and start to get the high ground advantage on it and just continuing to pop off shot after shot. That is control right there coming through. Gonna go ahead and get 2 of them down. Gonna lose one of their members. Gonna try to continue through this. Team's the last one up, trying to get ahead of the zone, but it's gonna be a big play coming out from the Big PP Bandits off to the side of it, trying to continue to harass off them. Now gonna have to be cautious as it's starting to get a little bit of aggression back around their face.
Only 3 squads remaining, and a great job by Tima on the back end there with that Mastiff. Able to clear it out and use the circle to its advantage. But I'll start with that Thermite. The aggression there. Matt, the last one left here on Unknown. Only 3 squads remaining. Just holding off. Trying to use that Mastiff. Just absolutely crucial here from T. Just doesn't seem to miss, but it gets overwhelmed by Bandits. And now it's him versus the one on the back end. It looks like it is only 1 left available here from Matt. So he's in a 1v3, going to find himself in a really tough position, but landing shots pretty well as he dodges, bobs, and weaves and ducks out of everything. At this point, it seems to be a numbers advantage that is going to overwhelm. Unless he can continue to land those sentinel shots. One does get dropped. Has an opportunity here.
Got to be careful off of this. His teammates now down, lost the information off of it, but look at the reposition coming up from the path.
He's only got 23
trying to
bullets
creep
left
off
on
to
that
the side.
too.
Can he put in any work? Tries to get it out, but Big PP Bandits are just going to step up. They continue to control that hill the whole way through. Should be walking away with a ton of kills and finally getting themselves a win.
Yeah, doing a great job of not over-aggressing. There was a moment where it looked like they had a knock. I think it was possibly on Yeet Squad on that back squad where they wanted to move up. And all those grenades coming out, they're just like, you know what? It's not worth it. And probably beneficial for their end because then they don't get sucked to that northeast side. So they go back, they keep the high ground, and they rotate through and do a fantastic job of just kind of gatekeeping everybody else that tries to push into their area. But again, these matches have been very aggressive. Even for what we're used to in the Americas region is how these guys want to play and be aggressive. We had a little bit of lull in the mid game while we were waiting for this to play out. But the big one I want to pay attention to on Wraith One Trick's team, those Mastiff shots were dirty.
Yeah, there was so many close range firefights. Shotguns were king inside of this entire map. But like, we didn't see a lot of long range sniping coming into play, because anytime somebody got shot, it was a quick retreat back out. But again, this set of fights that were happening back over here towards the southeast of the zone were instrumental, because Big PP Bandits managed to get more and more control as all these other teams were just continuing to rain down damage. Look at how much work they're putting into the side of these fights. You saw that they managed to connect and just force HRN to constantly be playing back on the low end of this, not capable of getting a lot of attention. Wraith One Tricks trying to defend as much as they can, but they had a beautiful beat on what was going on. They do lose one off of this exchange, but they had to just instantly retreat. They do manage to pick up the kills off of it, but again, Big PP Bandits, I love to say it, and I love to see them win.
Yeah, they did a great job on the back end here, and it was just a numbers game at the end, you know, making sure to take that opportunity in that fight, making sure that third partying when they were available. And then at the end, I think Matt did a fantastic job of trying to fend it off, but as soon as he started using those shields and trying to healing off, all that poke damage that he applied becomes negligible. There's nothing that you can do after that. You're giving them time to reposition. They know where you're at. There's not a whole lot you can do. So a tough situation for him. Unfortunately, nothing like a Kraber to kind of just turn the tides in his favor, but again, a good opportunity and good placement points for him and his crew. So again, this is another interesting one. Solifide knocked out and kind of pushed out of it. Leaves an opportunity for some of these guys to come in. I mean, today's a big day. It is the last chance. We've only got one match remaining, and all that matters today, top 10. Doesn't matter how you did in the previous weeks. Those got you to this position. But what matters most is, can you be top 10 at the end of today? So it's going to be exciting one. We've got one more match left for you guys. We got game 6, our third and final one here on Kings Canyon for the GLL Master Summers. But don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to close it out and see who joins us for the grand finals. Hey everybody, welcome back to the GLL Masters Summer for the Americas region. We've got our last and final game coming up. We just wrapped up game number 5, our second of Kings Canyon, and with one more to go. There's a lot on the line here. Obviously, it is our last day or last chance of the league play that we have going on. We've got 20 teams right now that are battling, and whoever ends at the top 10 at the end of today will make their way into the finals, where our 10 teams alongside TSM and Rogue and a bunch of others are waiting. So there's a lot on the line. It all comes down to one more, but before we do that, we got to look at how these results have played out. So if we want to throw up the scoreboard or the leaderboards or whatever one we're on right now, we can take a peek at how things just went down in our 5th and second to last game. And the big one that you love saying, I'll let you have the honors, Matchroom. What happened?
Big PP Bandits wins, walking away with 8 kills. Unknown back behind them getting 16. Wraith One Tricks walking away with 14 points. HRN, can't forget about them. We haven't seen a lot of flashiness coming up from them, but they've been consistent throughout the day. Lifted back behind them, needing a big game. Going to go ahead and walk away with 8. New Brainers yet again with 6. Friendly Gamers with 5. Team Superior 4. Motion Team 4. Ziploc Bags 4. And then a spattering of 2 1s and 0s on the right side of the leaderboard.
Yeah, the excuse me, I got the hiccups. The big one to pay attention to, though, Solifide with only 1 point. Even though they got pushed out pretty heavily, was still able to kind of make it in that 12 to 16 area to get a point. So
see, my big one, though.
Nothing.
Big PP Bandits now in 11th place, only 4 points behind Free Smoke.
They're closing in, man. They're closing in. But again, you see the difference maker here towards the top here. These are the results from everybody. So the big thing we're going to be focusing on moving forward, other than Big PP Bandits for Matchroom, is the fact that all these teams are trying to end in top 10. That is the #1 thing these guys are trying to do, because that allows them to continue on and play the finals on August 1st. So for all these teams, there's a lot to focus on. If you guys would like to follow in a more specific way or a more detailed way, at the very bottom, you can find the detailed leaderboard at play.gll.gg. So again, this is the last and final match, not only of our league play, but also for these players. Some of them will be sent packing. Top 10 is everything here, and we're going to keep talking about it until the very end. So a lot on the line, just trying to see on how it all plays out, and the way to do it is one last match on Kings Canyon.
Big things to keep an eye out for. Teams, New Brainer, Max Dog, Free Smoke, Big PP Bandits, Lifted, Yeet Squad. Big games from any of them, or just halfway decent games for a couple of them. Also, if any of these teams go out early, that could be the end of the entirety of their run. The top 10 teams move on to the grand final starting next weekend, I believe. So with this, every single one of these teams are praying the fact that this round is going to be the one that shows them the money.
Yeah, again, we saw in EMEA earlier today that a team in 17th, Navi, you may have heard of them, ended up having a massive game and jumped all the way to 7th. So it is not over for anybody just yet, except for the 2 that have left early in Anime Girls Woo and BKB. So other than those 2, and that's why we have 18 squads here, I think it is still open for everybody. All it takes is one good game and a bunch of kills, and you can make it. If you guys have been watching in previous weeks, in the past, we used to do an Alpha and a Bravo division, where the Alpha division would give double points. That is no longer the case. It is strictly placement and strictly 1 point per kill. So, again, kills have been extremely weighted in this tournament. And what a ruthless circle shift this is.
Let's go from a hard shift into another hard shift. Airbase seems to be the theme of this game, but don't call it Gauntlet just quite yet, because with hard shifts coming into play, you never know, we might see the shift back down towards the south. So, if you're back over in the rig or back over in swamps, your life's about to be really sad.
Not that far south. Not that far.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I would love to see a circle back down there. Let's go. Make it happen.
I don't think it's possible, man. And if it is, I'm raging already.
It's only possible if you say it's impossible. Anything can happen. Really, no, let's be honest. It's not, the code is not going to allow it to go down to a no man's land, but I wish that it could be a thing. So, big thing to keep an eye on are how many of these teams move early. That's the key factor, going to be saying, hey, we want centralized positions very, very quickly. We don't want to have to move a lot. With hard shifts like this, moving early is going to move you into a favorable position, most likely based off all the geometry that comes into play, that you are going to be comfortable. Whereas a lot of these teams that are going to be on the chase for the zone are going to be the ones that are going to have to be contending against every single team they can counter.
Sitting here in the loot phase, just waiting for these guys to make a decision. And with that circle shift, you can almost guarantee that a lot of these guys are going to try to move to the west side of the map as quickly as possible. Your fan favorite Big PP Bandits already getting involved here early. It's putting down quite a bit of damage here, pretty relatively well. As they do get a pickup here. They do get a knock here, and that's actually on Team Superior. That's a massive play.
Especially getting Superior out of defended position such as this. It looks like they're already going reposition back for the revive on it. We have to see how the rest of the Superior players opt into playing this. Looks like it should be in safety, and we're not seeing the Bandits really make an aggressive push out of this one. Whenever you have that big gap across the middle, you know it's extremely problematic. See it time and time again. You suddenly have a ton of bullets coming your way. As you can see that NNT having to make the retreat back away from that one. So now it looks like they're forced to have uncomfortable neighbors of Team Superior. So one team in a comfortable position on the leaderboard and another one striving for life. With this close to each other, that means the fact that anybody on Big PP Bandits has to be cautious. Any downs they get, Superior might just try to thieve away from them.
Trying to do whatever they can to get involved. But again, the difficulty, the longer this goes on and then more information, especially with a wide open map like this, there's going to be plenty of teams that recognize that and are going to move in on it. One of those being Lifted, trying to move into a position here on airbase. They end up spotting a team out. Unfortunately, those first couple shots here do not land.
Ooh, this is bad.
That is going to get them dropped and removed. So, unfortunately, they are our first team out. And for Lifted, that is them out altogether, possibly. I got to double check, but let me scroll. Scrolling. They are gone. That was the 12th place and last place, so they are done no matter what. Unfortunately for Lifted, they have been eliminated.
Well, valiant attempt coming through, and kudos for playing through the rest of the entirety of the series, unlike some of these teams, too, that I will point out. Bad matters coming out from them. But Millions is still playing for their livelihoods right now, finding themselves in an interesting spot. HRN, these guys have been quite dominant as they made their way through, constantly popping off towards these in-game positions. But they're in a bad spot right now. Moore's the last one up, and that is a quick pickup as everybody instantly drops. Quick res should be able to come out from Easy Katka, and that's some kills that Easy Katka desperately needed.
Luckily for HRN, even though they're getting removed here, second place with 58 points, only 1 point behind Team Superior. So they are in second place and have a pretty good gap. I don't expect the bottom teams to just magically make up 30+ points. So they should be relatively okay. But again, you just never know. This Easy Katka, a team that desperately needs a big performance. They found themselves in 18th with only 9 points. This could be a team that I expect a lot of aggression, trying to get as many kills as they can. We'll have to stay on board with them and follow their path as they have a great start here and a good team to remove as Tracer's coming out from the top side. There's Sola Fide around the corner. And just trying to rotate in and make sure they have a good secure here as a big ultimate coming down. Gibraltar and that bubble happen relatively early. This could be a problem if Sola Fide decides to get aggressive.
I like this one. Sola Fide playing this a little bit more passive right now. Not in the rush to make the play back over, and you can see
what a shot.
Team's just trying to leave based off of this. Big problems coming up from anybody if they're still holding down in defensive points. Looks like they're just going to go ahead and start blowing out the doors. And I love the breach coming out from Solo Fide. They've been putting on a show every single time they have to do it. Look, they just roll in, full on firefight. They know exactly what's going on, but that's actually problematic. Already had one of their members go down, but a quick turnaround going to be able to turn this back onto its head. Problem with it now comes into play. Looks like Wraith One Trick still around the outside of this. Wanting to make the play back over, trying to find some kills off of it. Two members now that they're trying to make some plays with. Trying to find the angle to work with. Not going to be able to get much. Instead, going to take the Wraith Portal, retreat back out and away from this one, say, okay, maybe that's a bit too much. Instead, just throw down a little bit of defenses and try to get away.
Yeah, unfortunately, they are missing one of their teammates. And no utility or no throwables in that one as well. So I do like the idea, though. You hear the aggression. You see that the team's possibly weak. You move in and try to get some of that damage put down. And if it's not there, not a big deal. Just back right out, go back to your positioning, and retreat to fight another time. So Solo Fide, what looked like they almost lost that one. I like the way that they played it. There's a player with an Eva that was kind of just using that corner, and he took those initial shots on the Gibraltar and then backed around the corner. He let those players come out of cover and towards him, so he has that peeker's advantage. So really well done there. And surprisingly, what I thought was them going to be dropping down, we're able to hold it off. So great job by Solo Fide, able to keep it alive.
Ooh.
And unfortunately for Team Superior, they run into yet another team.
All right, take the shot. You never know. Somebody might be chasing you through the portal. So this fight continues, as I believe it is still Big PP Bandits on the other side of this. It's going to start seeing a lot of teams try to condense around. So the longer this goes on, it's problematic for both of these teams. This was very early inside of their looting stages that they bumped into each other. So one of these looks like PP Bandits hasn't had a chance to get a lot of their armor into a good position right now. You can see that NNT is still kind of sitting on one bar. So you got to be cautious with this. They got cells. So somebody help the poor brother out over there.
I think he's got
come up with something. It's probably it. Yeah, trying to sit over there. That still throws me every once in a while. I'm still not used to seeing everybody not topped off. Yeet Squad now moving into an aggressive position back over towards airbase as well.
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing about the Evo Shield is because it's got 5 bars instead of 4, the visual, even though it's purple, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's like not full. What's going on? And it's just realizing that it can go up another level to fill out. So yeah, a little bit confusing. I wish that they would just make it visually the same, and then it like breaks out of the like little nameplate, just to like emphasize how important it is.
I just wish for us there was a better marker on it, so that way we could know if it was just actually white armor or if it was an Evo shield whenever we're glancing at it over there. Well, as we can see, everything's sitting back over. Free Smoke has the high ground advantage back over towards airbase, and really going to dictate a lot of the fights as they go. Easy Cat is on the outskirts of this one. Like they're trying to be a little bit more aggressive. Well, I say aggressive, really just trying to harass teams as they make their approach right now. This could be their go signal as, yep, they feel like they've got the angles to work with, and so they're going to start throwing out a lot of utility. So Easy Cat really just trying to chase down the remnants. They've got a little bit of footsteps to work with, but that was a very hefty retreat coming out. But look at the laser coming out on that one. Al's got to be careful, already down. So now firmly on the chase, just going to go ahead and jump through. Solo Fide has already got one of their members down, trying to hold the defensive line back over towards it. Metro's pretty low on life, trying to get the spray back over. Now it is just Metro that's up, trying to creep back away from this one, but it looks like they're going to be able to stack it up whenever it matters, becoming the new kill leaders right now on top of it to boot.
Not only that, though, there's another team nearby, so having to be careful. It's a good play on the top of that rock where he ended up using that massive for the initial damage, then swapping over quickly to an R99. Might have been the flat line as well. Either way, a lot of damage and a great way to do it. But again, this is Wraith One Tricks. This is the second time they've done this now where a fight breaks out, they try to push in and overwhelm, and has let Solo Fide, who was in a weakened state, able to get away. I don't know if they were able to pick up that straggler. There was one player that was down that was able to call the information saying that that team was coming in. So we'll have to check out that one later. His New Brainers going to be falling a Wraith, in a beautiful timing on that shot by Mercy. Does get quite a bit of damage down, but not going to be able to get a pickup here, so just checking both angles, seeing if there's anybody coming back through that portal.
Play around bunker, bring the caustic, benefits galore coming out. I know I'm memeing just a bit, but it's got a lot of use based off of that positioning. Max Dog and the rest of the crew still trying to figure out how they're going to make their push back over, but we have so many teams stacked up around airbase right now. Anybody that has to move into the flatlands out in front of it, just to the east of airbase, are going to find themselves in a lot of trouble. So that's why you see a lot of these teams just kind of clinging to the sides of the cliffs, trying to make sure that they don't easily reveal themselves. Meanwhile, we're making any plays back around the south. It looks like it's starting to get a little bit more congested back over there, as well as Unknown, Matt Pickett, Phony Head, and Crummy, and the rest of the crew still just trying to get a little bit more damage out of there. So playing it slowly, to say the least.
Yeah, at this point, just trying to go for some poke damage. I don't expect anybody to aggress, even if they do. I mean, you're going up across a wide open area. Just asking to get picked off if the team decides to turn on you. Again, those are some trades that you might be able to pick up as well. So the difficulty of this as well is it's just wasting a lot of utility. So you need to be careful. Crummy does make a good play. This could be an opportunity, but he does get spotted out by the Wraith. They do trade a decent amount of damage. He's going to end up just using his phase shift to get out of there. Probably the better route on it, as well as trying to apply some damage. You got millions nearby as well. So many teams in the same area. It's the team that they're aggressing on. It was Wolf that ended up doing a really good peek on that. Not sure if you heard him or not. Either way, it's good to check those angles and make sure that nobody's aggressing. And looks like at this point, they're just going to hold it off. They recognize that they're under a lot of pressure. Another team to their north that's putting damage down and almost gets tunnel vision, but big shots coming on the back end. It's going to drop down 2. There's only 1 left available. Unknown with their final push. Going to go for the flush on 1. Trying to find the last one. Where is he? Can't find him. As they do spot rotating on the other side. Only 1 more shot needed. With this, I'm assuming they're going to chase it down just so they can close out this team of millions. That was a great push. Able to come back from that other side and just caught the tunnel vision. You saw the peak a little bit. Those tracers from the north end side was enough to open up an opportunity, and they punish.
So now we've got essentially 3 different clusters of players. We've got back down towards the south, we've got airbase, and then we have in the middle of the no man's land a whole bunch of players just kind of scattered out. Lots of rats hanging out, and that is a big, hefty rat. Really, at this point, is he a bear or is he a rat? I think it's better to call him a bear. When you're wearing that skin, just full on.
I actually really enjoy that skin. I think it's fantastic.
It makes me so happy. I almost don't want to kill people whenever they're wearing it, whenever I'm playing against them. But
he looks so nice. Like, he's that kind of guy that looks super intimidating, but he'll give you like a really cool hug. He's like, yeah, what's up?
I also like the fact that he's leaned up against the, I guess, what is it, the pipes back behind him. So that way, with him at full height, he kind of blends into it. So now it's just a matter of sitting and waiting 1 minute and 24 seconds. Almost at 124 seconds. It's what happens in Game 6. Gotta start making sure that I bring just the energy, because the more the math comes out, it's just gonna be bad. But THP finding themselves a little bit of a precarious positioning right now as everybody's finding fights over here on the broken coast, kind of separated out. Gotta be careful as they make the peek back around up this. Retreats back into the Gibraltar shield, but it's not gonna be enough. Max Dog already loses 1. Quick repositions coming out, trying to provide a little bit of reinforcements, but gotta go for the reload as they have the angle, continuing to try to get out the spray. The damage has been done, but Max Dog has to slow down. They still need to push along this angle, and you can see now they've realized this might be too problematic. Let's reposition back around, maybe go around this cliff facing and see if we can get away from it. But TPH says no. We're just firmly on your tails right now. Look at that, just chasing after them. Quick double pickup.
Yeah, really big deal, and obviously a lot of these teams coming down to the wire, just trying to stay alive and get some kills for it. And Max Dog had the opportunity there. It was a lot on Beans, where the ability to play that, peeks the corner, has the dual push, but has to reload. So missed opportunity of what could have been. Either way, going to retreat, and the only one left alive. So placement point's going to be a big one for here, as Unknown does spot some players to the side here over to the west. Another team in the area as well. There's a lot of teams pushing in on this corner. High ground going to be a big one, and you can already see the benefits that it has for Unknown at the top side here.
I love the play coming out from everybody around airbase. You can see that it's very measured. Nobody's wanting to overextend just quite yet. They know that they have good control points to play from. So instead, just try to opt into close range defense, as in a lot of these teams are going to be able to find sneaky little angles, just kind of encroach back over towards you. So I love the read coming out from right now Unknown. You can see that they have an idea that somebody's playing down below them. A couple of peaks are going to come back up, but look at the repositioning back away from this one. Instead, trying to find a wider angle, making sure that can't try to get any more damage based off of that. It's just a constant cat and mouse game of repositioning off of every single one of these teams.
Yeah, I like that from this team as well, where they push one side and then immediately go and peek a different one. Also, Gibraltar left over from one of the squads just playing for placement. You also have the same thing for Max Dog, where Khaki Beads is the only one left available. And in a pretty good spot for the zone here. Shouldn't have to force anything too much. Just trying to make sure that the information... And this is where it kind of gets a little bit interesting based on the approach from what the team is, where you want to still, have faith that the teammate's going to make the best decision, but at the same time, having teammates kind of creates a little bit too much in the communication and can kind of be confusing and overwhelming. So at that point, just kind of making sure that the comms stay clean, only providing information of you got a player here and there, but also still trusting them to make the right decision.
Capital still on the outside, looking back over, trying to figure out if they can find some type of move to go with. Gonna try to use the Wraith to get the portal into a good spot, but everywhere feels like it's taken. Maybe just underneath of that little bit of a step might be the only spot that they can find. Whenever you're forced into playing this tunnel with the amount of teams that are playing around this, it's gonna be a problem. So many third parties can just rip you apart and you never really get a chance to get your feet back underneath of you. Trying to make the play back over for it. It's still gonna be the Bandits holding down this point. Gonna be pretty close towards the safe zone, but right now, just trying to play full on defense to see if they can get enough points to buy themselves that 10th place position.
Do you like the fact that the Bandits have the ability to work a different angle here too with that portal? They'll take a wide approach and put some shots down, and even if this doesn't work out, they can go back to their spot where they have a safety. But for this team up top getting shot by multiple angles, New Branders as well getting involved, having that high ground. Could be dangerous if he spots out an angle. Mercy has been absolutely lethal with that scout.
Now, I got to be a little bit careful as the rotations are going to start coming into play. 13 squads still alive with 33 people in the small of a circle. Keep in mind, a lot of it is dead space. When you look at this safe zone, it's going to fall pretty close to the open area. So a lot of this zone is not playable. Nobody can really do anything with it except for just kind of jump back and forth if you got Pathfinder ropes going across it or something else. So with this, big reposition is going to be coming out from everybody that's overplaying airbase, specifically over towards the north. So it's going to be a lot of run and gun. Jump, take the shots, try to use the opportunity while somebody's retreating back away to try to get their shields back up. So it's going to be hit a little bit, retreat. A lot of guerrilla warfare, just trying to make the path back over into this point. Capital's doing a great job of that right now, but has to be very careful. You can see they can't tunnel vision in on anything, as almost every single sector of airbase is already got a team holding it down.
Well, we've got 30 seconds here for the zone to be closed officially, but it's already pushing all these teams in, and with all of them kind of wrapped up on the north side here, someone is going to get caught out, and you're going to see the action start to break down. Big PP Bandits on the backside, trying to hold off this team. They've got Capital up above as well. Just trying to make sure they can get something here, as shots just kind of being thrown wildly until the team rotates out. Shield's getting hit. Big ultimate from the Gibraltar coming down as well. This team, TPH, in a pretty good spot here. Doesn't necessarily have to take this, but the difficulty is they do have this team on the other side as well with clear advantage.
I like how we see TPH and Bandits both playing this. They're just trying to defend their locations. They know they're right on the edge of it. And look at the angle to work with. TPH is just continuing to rain down death. Going to make it very complicated for everybody playing back over there. Is going to be Hollow getting the down onto one. Now they're going to be able to pick up another. It's just continued wingman shots that are just making their life miserable. Looking back down the hillside, you got to be careful off of this. They've got the building to work with, but there's not a lot of territory. As they've got this little sneaky spot to hide from. Do note the fact that the circle has popped and it's all the way back over towards the southeast from this point. Now it's just going to have to be killing your way back over to that point, as there are no real easy rotations to it, except for just the main run.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to find a way that they can approach this a little bit more uniquely. If they go the same route, you know, people know exactly where they're up top. I think it's Unknown. Yeah, Unknown's still up top here. That's been the one that have been aggressing since the very beginning. You know, they fell off. There was a team that was below them that they had to hold off as well that they ended up pushing out. So, again, Unknown in a really good position here. Just a matter of making sure that they don't bite off more than they can chew. If they get aggressed on too many different positions, it could be a problem. So they drop down the Watson ultimate. It looks like they're going to stick to this. The Ziploc bags on the outside as well and in the circle. So they don't necessarily need to move, just need to be careful of where they're being shot from at this point as well. Doing whatever they can, they just need to make sure that they cover off at least one of their angles so they know that they're not going to be aggressed from that way. But all these teams spread out, trying to find whatever cover they can. There's so many stacked on top of each other. And with 10 squads remaining in such a small circle, here comes the chaos.
Everybody's going to have to start to make their move right now. Hopefully they've been able to scout out enough information to make something work. TPH looks like they might have themselves a path. You can see the plan coming out in front of them, trying to make sure that they can get just ahead of the zone to get something out of it. Going to try to go ahead and go with the crypto off of that, but that's a poor place to use it, as that's going to be a lot of damage stacked back over towards them. Unknown still just raining down death from the high ground. TPH going to try to make a reposition back over here, runs right into another Gibraltar shield, and they're just going to run right into Yeet Squad. Yeet Squad's trying to defend this up, trying to get whatever damage they can. Somehow Nicewig and Bowser do manage to hold it together, but they have to be super cautious.
Really well played with that 3 coming in, and it was a great idea on the push, but Yeet Squad was just set up way too well. Actually, a really good benefit for them. This could be absolutely crucial where they're able to win that fight. They're still on the side. You also have another player. So there's 3 squads available and one just hiding down below, and the placement points probably going to be a big difference maker as well, as Wraith One Trick's going to be able to get their squad fully up and ready to go also on the other side.
Big for them.
This could be a really big fight, as you mentioned. Going to drop down the bubble and try to play defensive round. This is going to be the last heal before they get into it all. I mean, I want to focus on Yeet Squad. The ability to handle off that push and then kind of have that ledge on the side. They get a revive off, and now they're fully healed. I mean, quite honestly, I don't know if teams even think if they're here yet.
Well, they're going to have to find some way to reposition. You can see a couple of these teams starting to make the play back over towards the runway right now. Unknown, still having the high ground, knows that they're going to have to move. Going to go ahead and opt to make the movement right now. Try to creep back around while another fight is going on with just the 4 squads left. Everybody's going to have to condense back down to this point. Remember, this is the last game coming out. So a lot of these teams have their tournament riding on the line right now. Unknown, playing this aggressive, finding every single angle, and it's working to their benefit. Wraith 1 Tricks is still just trying to hold it together. They have one of their members down, but still have the armor and defense to work with. Now they're just looking back, seeing if there's any more aggressors that are trying to make their way back over. I don't know if they have time to go for the res. They're going to try to go for it. Yeet Squad still continuing to make this play. Makes it up onto the top of it. They have a nice angle to work with. Opposite of playing the low ground, trying to play this a little bit more aggressively. Bowser, the last one up for his team, has to be cautious, does get taken out, quickly dropped, and now there is just one member up right now for Ziploc Bags. Makes the push around, and they manage to pick up our last round of the day.
Well played by Ziploc Bags on the back end there, and you just saw Bowser trying to get any kind of shields he could, and because he gets so tunnel vision on it, he doesn't even recognize the Wraith is right next to him, and just comes in with a massive down the mouth and just completely removes him. That could have been the fight. That is the chaos that is Apex Legends at the end, man. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love the awareness. Try to find the moments whenever the third party kicks off, because you saw it was just a cascade of teams just stepping in. Once the first one tried to take that position, next one steps up, and every single one of them tried to use the positioning of the other team to their advantage, so that way they could approach freely and surprise the remaining team that's still standing there. And it was just a quick turnover of hands, back and forth, so fast to lead up to the very last survivor.
Yeah, I mean, Yeet Squad, I talked about it, you know, having that little sliver of space to work with. Forces Unknown, who clearly has high ground advantage. And yeah, they're a little bit further out the zone, but I think they're willing to deal with that, especially if they have that Wraith portal that can come in. And like, Yeet Squad just waits for them to go past. They don't even think of it, none the wiser. And then after that, it's just like, okay, we're going to come in after you guys. We're going to clean up. Yeah, we'll probably get second here. But even still, that is the difference maker. This is a team in Yeet Squad that's 13th, 17 points, still roughly 10, 11 points behind that 10th place spot. So doing whatever they can, those placement points I think are going to be absolutely crucial, and I'm excited to see how this all wraps down as we take a look at the highlights here for our 6th game. Big shot there from Pride on the headshot as one retreats. This is that fight I was talking about where he takes the initial engagement and then kind of backs off with them. So all those players are pushing out of cover while he still has that corner to work with, and it ends up working out. And then on the tail end, we saw a big fight go down here where teams were poking. Unknown, that team that had that high ground at the end, able to hold off, and we saw numerous things where it's like teams were aggressing on this corner as well. This is the one where Max Dog had, I think, the ability to kind of slide in and apply that damage, but got caught on the reload. It was just one thing after another in the end.
I am just so ready for the leaderboard. I know it takes a second to compile. Everybody's making sure everything's just fine with it, but having Yeet Squad do fairly good inside of this. We saw Unknown having a good performance. Ziploc Bags coming in towards the end of it. Big PP Bandits coming out. It was just a bloodbath on so many different points coming out for these teams. I just don't know how many kills they ended up with towards the end of it. Is it going to be enough to get them into the top 10? A lot of these guys were playing for their livelihood to make it back over towards the grand finals. This ending is, again, just so back and forth. And look, Gobble just hears it all up, runs back over and is like, oh, hey, I want to join in on the party too. Walks up and just takes that victory from Zip.
Hey, man, that's what you got to do. I mean, obviously, Ziploc Bags coming into this one was in 7th, and they can almost guarantee themselves. Same thing with Wraith 1 Tricks and a lot of these other teams. But for me, it's going to be the ones that are kind of that are in that in-between, the ones that are hovering, the ones like Yeet Squad, where they're able to secure and move up based upon the results. I'm looking forward to it. So there's a lot of things for us to cover and kind of do what's going on. But while we're doing that and kind of adding this stuff all up in the back to know who's going to be joining our other 10, the ones that they are going to be joining, we can kind of focus on that. 303, Aim Assist, Eye Shiny Muffins, Protectful, MVP, Energy, Rogue, Sentinels, Smile, Team Liquid, and TSM. So that is some pretty powerful teams that they're going to have to go up against in the grand finals on August 1st. But again, there's a lot of things that went down today, and we're going to kind of go over those before we get into the final results. So on the tail end here, if we want to take a look at the highlights that the lovely crew in the back has been kind of doing for us all day today without any credit, they crush it every single weekend. We've been able to kind of take a look at, this is game number 4. So this is the first one that we got on Kings Canyon, where it started off with Unknown. You know, this was our team that has been pretty solid performances where they're able to kind of start with an early engagement and then find themselves running away But we were able to bounce back here in game number 5. But HRN, another team that was in the kind of middle of the pack and then ending up towards the top with solid performances. But the one you talked about at the beginning, how is Wraith One Tricks going to play? They had a great performance last week and then able to come in super aggressive. Even more so, I think, in these last 2 rounds because they know how crucial these points can be.
HRN too. We've seen them be very powerful throughout this series, but haven't had a chance to really follow them up. They tend to just take a fight so quickly. It's hard to always just get a feel for what's going on. Ziploc Bags, you can see our last round winners trying to put in some work, and every single kill that you see right now inside of these highlights is going to be extremely important. I think that this leaderboard is going to be pretty close. So at any one of these teams managed to step up, steal a kill from somebody else, or make an aggressive play that managed to get them 3 kills while they wiped out a squad, that could be the differentiator between making it in the top 10 and not making it inside the top 10.
And that's the scary thing. You look at the leaderboards already, right? Like a lot of these teams in that 9-10 spot are tied. So you talk about, stealing one of those kills away, that is the difference. So it's tough, man. It's very tough.
Well, while we're talking about the teams that are trying to make their way into the top 10, we should also note out how strong we've seen some of the other teams play. Superior and Solo Fide had themselves a great day, as well as several of the other teams that just consistently popped off inside the top 10. Or specifically the top 5. Gotten too used to saying top 10 as we've gone through here today. But we also saw a little bit of a play in that last round coming out from Easy Katka as well. So really curious to see if that's going to be enough for them. But Big PP Bandits, this was kind of the change up for them. Whenever we saw them kind of move into their comfort phase, when we saw them playing around artillery inside that game, they started to get a little bit more control, started to feel a little bit more confident. And from there, they just really used that to really push into this last game.
Yeah, it was a really big confidence boost there, I think, in game number 5. And a lot of it just had to do with the way that they positioned, taking this backside right here. You saw it. They get a knock here, and they want to push towards it, but then the grenades came out. They decided to back up. They sit on the outside. And because they stay on that outside, even though these fights are going down here, they find themselves in a fantastic position. I wanted to talk about Teen, and we get to see it again. I'm glad to see it. This Mastiff, just absolutely crucial. They throw the thermite down on the portal that ends up appearing on that back end, and that extra tick damage. Even though they're trying to fight off whatever they can, it's just these close range battles was really the story here in the tail end of the day, where just nonstop close range fights, and then you saw Matt on the back end just trying to do whatever he could to survive. But in a 1v3, he put down quite a bit of poke, gave them a little bit too much time, in my opinion, to kind of heal it up. But no matter what, he was at a disadvantage. So the only thing that I shame in that game is that someone on HRN had a Kraber, and I didn't get to see it. It's the only thing I'm upset about. So.
Not a lot of Kraber play coming in. Everybody wanted to get up close and personal for this one, and that's not too surprising. Whenever you're looking for your survival inside of a tournament, sure, it's great to get the knocks, it's great to knock down the shields and stuff like that, but it's really hard to just run in and get those final kills. But Lawler, are you ready? I think that we have rounds for all the points for the leaderboard in that last round accumulated. So let's go ahead and look, see how everything stacks back over into this. It's going to be Wraith One Tricks up at the top of it. They don't get the round win, but they get it just based off of kills. It's 21 points coming up for them.
Yeah, this is the scoreboard here for match number 6. So this was the very last match of the day, our last one on Kings Canyon. And some pretty big names here to pay attention to. Easy Katka, obviously, was sitting down below. We were curious on if their aggression was going to come and play out. Unfortunately, they're only able to get a squad, so not going to do it for them. Team Superior, another team towards the top that is pretty much solidified. The ones that we want to focus on, though, are kind of those middle-of-the-pack teams. TPH is a team that you're trying to see if they can hold on to it. Looking at New Brainers, Max Dog, also teams that I think for Max Dog, this could be scary. They were in 9th place at 28 points, only getting 1 in that round. I'm a little nervous for them. So this has been close, but we're going to take a look. Who are our top 10 teams? And Max Dog actually holds on by 2 points.
Just narrowly holding back out the Big PP Bandits. Hopefully we will see more from them. Yeet Squad also eliminated, as well as Lifted and Million. So our top 10 teams up at number 1. It's going to be Team Superior with 64 points. HRN coming in second with 58. Tied up with that, it's going to be Solo Fide, 58 points. Wraith One Tricks 1 point back behind it. 1 point back behind them is going to be Unknown. Then Ziploc Bags, TPH, New Brainers, Free Smoke, and Max Dog rounding it all out.
Massive congrats to them. Today was our last chance day, and if you guys don't know what's been going on, and you guys kind of want a really brief overview, we had 5 weeks of league play. These guys come up and battling out, but this week was a little bit different. We got rid of our top 10 teams from those 4 weeks, and we told them, you're going to the grand finals. Today, we took teams 11 through 30, had them battle it out. These are your results, and the ones that are in the 1 through 10 spots. we'll be joining them in the grand finals for a chance at $100,000 on August 1st. So massive congrats to these teams, big performances from them, and I wish them the best of luck moving forward.
I mean, everybody that has competed inside of this tournament, massive respect. I know that we have now eliminated 20 teams, but if you stayed through and you fought through every single round, just look at the experience you have managed to gather for it. You are set and ready. The next time one of these events or any one of these Apex events shows up, please come back and play again. That's how you get better. You're not just going to be instantly better off of your very first event. Continue to play it through, and I hope that we see so many of you coming back. Now, that being said, if you're in our top 10, I cannot wait, because you were going over it a second ago, Lawler. That roster that already auto-qualified for it, those top 10 teams, are phenomenal. Now we've moved in the second set of 10, and this has an amazing grand final written all over it.
Yeah, I mean, to double down on what you were saying, this is the best of the best. Even though it is an open qualifier tournament, we got to know a lot of new faces, some familiar, some new. I think that's the best part. Don't be discouraged by it, even if you're knocked out. There's always going to be more. And we hope to see you guys sign up and compete in those as well. Moving forward, though, we now have, after 5 weeks of play, our best teams. It is not a fluke at this point, is these guys are the most consistent week in and week out, and we get to see it all break down on August 1st. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. But before we close it out, I mean, I want to give you last words. Obviously, it's been an absolute pleasure for me working alongside you for the past couple of weeks. But the floor is yours, Matchroom.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just want to give a big shout out to you, naturally. Coming in, this is actually my first Apex series that I ever casted, so thanks for having my back on that one. And naturally to the chat as well, because you guys were sometimes mean, but majority of the time really nice. So appreciate everybody for tuning in every single week, every single one of the players as well. It means so much to those guys that you guys are tuning in to support them. So thank you so much for that. GLL, I cannot wait for another one of these. Please give us another.
Yeah, with that said, guys, also massive thank you. Anybody who came in and tuned in and showed support throughout the continuous weeks, we greatly appreciate you being here. I know for some of you, it's very late at night. So again, for whether you're here for EMEA or the Americas, it does not matter. We appreciate you being here nonetheless. Also, massive shout outs to the guys behind the scenes, the production crew that continues to provide the awesome perspective of the rat cams and putting up with our terrible jokes and everything else besides the scenes. Without them, this would not be possible. And with that said, for GLL, putting on the Masters Summer League is always something that we look forward to, and we always appreciate the effort that goes into it. So that is going to wrap it up for us, guys. That has been 5 weeks of GLL action here for Apex, but that is not it. Coming up August 1st, we got the grand finals where all these 20 teams for both EMEA as well as the Americas are going to be battling for $100,000. That does it for us, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. We'll catch you next time.